Videos show a US transport plane and Black Hawk helicopter in the skies over Iran, apparently involved in the rescue mission. Officials say one of the crew has now been rescued and is receiving hospital treatment. The whereabouts of the second crew member are still unknown. The downed jet was reportedly a two-seater F-15E fighter jet with a two-man crew. It comes after US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the US had air superiority above Iran and could operate virtually unchallenged over the country.
Meanwhile, a spokesperson for the Iranian military this week warned of incoming crushing, broader and destructive attacks after the US president said the war would continue for another 2 to 3 weeks. In a speech to the nation, Donald Trump said the US is on track to soon complete all of its military objectives against Iran. Ross Callan reports.
The response from Tehran after the primetime speech from the US leader was a warning that the US and Israel, quote, must pay for the aggression you initiated. A military spokesperson said Iran's military production takes place in places that you don't know at all, rejecting claims made by the United States leader that Iran's weapons stockpile had been widely depleted. There's no sign of a ceasefire in sight at the moment, with Iran's foreign ministry rejecting Donald Trump's claim that the country had asked for a halt to the fighting as baseless.
Meanwhile, US Supreme Court justices cast doubt on President Trump's attempts to restrict birthright citizenship, one of his most ambitious policy endeavours. The president took the unprecedented step of attending the High Court for oral arguments as conservative and liberal justices questioned the legality of his attempt to block the children of illegal immigrants born on US soil from automatically becoming citizens. Kate Fisher reports from the US Supreme Court.
Quite the welcome for President Donald Trump as he became the first sitting president to hear oral arguments at the Supreme Court over whether his executive order limiting birthright citizenship is legal. One of his arguments is that if unrestricted, it leads to so-called birth tourism, where pregnant women travel to the US to give birth so that their baby can have American citizenship. But the Chief Justice, John Roberts, seems skeptical. The justices also had vigorous questions for ACLU lawyer Cecilia Wang, but she found notably less resistance in her defense of birthright citizenship. The decision is expected by the end of June or early July.
Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen says he and his team are feeling pretty good as the Orion spacecraft takes them to the far side of the moon. The 4 astronauts are now hundreds of thousands of miles from Earth as part of NASA's Artemis II mission. Stuart Smith has more.
The trip will take the astronauts further from Earth than anyone has been before, in a mission to observe but not land on the far side of the moon, which is never visible from Earth. After slingshotting around the Earth a few times to build up momentum and the right trajectory, the crew are now directly on their way to the moon and are the first people to leave the Earth's orbit since the 1970s. They're still a few days from reaching the moon though, and in the meantime they'll check their equipment, control systems and plan for the observations they'll be doing when they get close. In their first public video call since launching, Commander Reed Wiseman gave an update on their situation.
It was pretty tense moments there for a second, and I got to tell you, there is nothing normal about this. Sending 4 humans 250,000 miles away is a Herculean effort.
And finally this week, Pakistan and Afghanistan resumed talks in China, with Beijing mediating to calm tensions between the two sides. This comes as Middle East turmoil fuels wider regional instability. Analysts warn that easing pressure along the Afghan border is essential as Pakistan's military faces the risk of being stretched across both its western and Iranian frontiers. Hira Mustafa reports from Islamabad.
Pakistani officials say the talks aim to find common ground to tackle terrorists allegedly operating from Afghanistan, a charge Kabul denies. Beijing is mediating to try to broker a ceasefire. Clashes between the two neighbors since February have been the most intense in decades, leaving dozens injured on both sides of the border. Pakistan and Afghanistan representatives are meeting in China's northern city of Urumqi. Experts stress that stability in Pakistan's western border region is crucial, especially amid uncertainty in Iran. With Islamabad sharing a 900 kilometers border with Iran, any instability there could put additional strain on Pakistan's military.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
I always dreamed of providing the nation with concise recaps of the week's events. One fateful summer in 1934, legendary onion mogul T. Herman Zwiebel was passing through our town to acquire an oil derrick when he overheard me calling in the oxen in my breathy baritone and offered me the opportunity of a lifetime. Yes, from the turbulent war times of the 1940s.
The Onion welcomes the majestic Axis armies as conquering heroes.
To the free-spirited 60s. And remember, there's nothing more cosmic than keeping your house insulated with Thermoflake brand asbestos. I can truly say I've been here for the turning of the ages. But now, viewers, my beautiful 19-year-old wife and I will take our much-deserved retirement to my Genevan chateau. I wish all of my detractors empty, destitute lives. And for my allies, I hope for all the pleasures availed by heaven. So, finally, let me say one last time, for more, keep checking theonion.com.
This is the Onion News Network.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. It's talk radio you control. You can call and get your thoughts on the air. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. If you don't do that, we're going to talk about whatever we want. But we'd rather talk with you. That's the point of this show. Phone lines are open, so give us a call. In the studio tonight, it's Stu.
And O'Reilly O'Bill.
So, I don't watch the news. I don't know what's going on.
I don't watch the news much either.
Let's
I do pay attention to news stories, though.
3 hours ago, second U.S. fighter jet downed by Strait of Hormuz as search for F-15E crew member in something.
You know, the U.S. government can definitely use that as a way to bolster their war with Iran, couldn't they? They could say, oh...
Not in my opinion. That's a clear identifier that maybe you should just give up now.
I agree with you, Steve,
but a whole lot more.
They're not going to think that way. They don't think this way.
Well, Trump's certainly not.
No, I'm sure Trump doesn't think this way, and I don't think a lot of people, well, maybe a lot of people in his administration are going to think like us, but we have these, we have these people who think they own the right to go shoot anybody anywhere else in around the world for America's interest.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how Trump deals with this because he's not the kind of guy that wants to back down, right? He's art of the deal guy, so he goes in there with way more than he expects to get. And then,
yep, he makes a big deal and wants people to...
But in this case, Iran's just kind of like, no, we're not doing any of that. So keep it up because we'll do this as long as you want. And Trump's just like, okay. And so it kind of sounds like he's making stuff up, but I don't know.
Well, he is a showman, so beware of that. And he's just putting on a show for the people who believe him or the people that don't. So I don't know. It's just this.
Yeah, it's just kind of doing it on the fly.
Yeah, it sure seems that way. And it's really, really frustrating that it is that way.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll talk about this. I don't want to talk about this. There's got to be something better than talking about Trump.
Oh, come on, Stu. Okay. Don't you want to be like everyone else to talk about
I got what
Trump?
I heard about. Bitcoin apparently is compromised by the Google entity. Did you hear about that one?
No, I didn't. Tell me more.
From what I hear, Google now claims to have quantum computing sufficient to hack Bitcoin and do whatever they want with it. So that would cause a serious problem.
It definitely would. I mean, Bitcoin is not a private thing like a lot of people think. But that being said, you know, if Google or some entity could hack the Bitcoin network and be like, hey, I'm going to take some Bitcoin from Stu just by hacking his wallet, they definitely could. That'd be really bad.
Yep, and we did a story a little while ago about the Monero chain being under threat of 51% attack by another protocol called Qubits. Or Qubit.
I remember that story, yeah.
That didn't seem to go anywhere. So maybe they were bluffing. Maybe Google's bluffing.
Maybe.
And if they're not bluffing, would it really be in their interest to tell people that they could hack Bitcoin instead of just kind of keeping that card up their sleeve?
I think it would be in their best interest to keep it up their sleeve so they do a surprise attack.
However, we all know that if Google has the ability to do whatever they want to Bitcoin, that by extension also means U.S. government has the ability.
That's entirely possible. I think that's the big concern that I have as someone who may or may not hold Bitcoin, but I know friends who do, and I'm more concerned about their wallets and them getting hacked by some an entity like Google and their money stolen from them, because we know that can happen. We know that people can steal your debit card or credit card and buy things without your notice, and we know that if Google or someone like them hacks your networks or hacks the ledger and steals money from your account, that is one of the things that would lead me to believe that they're a harmful organization.
Well, let's read about this and see what's actually going on with it.
All right.
This is from... Hang on. This is from CoinDesk by Sharia Malwa. Here's what cracking Bitcoin in 9 minutes by quantum computers actually means. Google's quantum AI team said earlier this week that a future quantum computer could derive a Bitcoin private key from a public key in roughly 9 minutes. The number ricocheted across social media and spooked markets, but what does it actually mean in practice? Let's start with how Bitcoin transactions work. When you send Bitcoin, your wallet signs the transaction with a private key, a secret number that proves you own the coins. That signature also reveals your public key, a shareable address which gets broadcast to the network and sits in a waiting area called the mempool until a miner includes it in a block. On average, that confirmation takes about 10 minutes. Your private key and public key are linked by a math problem called the elliptic curve discrete logarithmic problem. Classical computers can't reverse that math in any useful time frame, while a sufficiently powerful future quantum computer running an algorithm called Shors could. Shors is spelled S-H-O-R.
Okay.
Here's where the 9 minutes parts comes in. Google's paper found that a quantum computer could be primed in advance by pre-computing the parts of the attack that don't depend on any specific public key. Once your public key appears in the mempool, the machine only needs about 9 minutes to finish the job and derive your private key. Bitcoin's average confirmation time is 10 minutes. That gives the attacker roughly 41% chance of deriving your key and redirecting your funds before the original transaction confirms.
So I've got a question, and maybe some of the listeners out there might have the same question. What is the difference between my private key for my Bitcoin wallet and the public key? Is the public key the Bitcoin address that I send the funds to?
Your public key is a very complicated mathematical product of what the private key is. So you do something with real complicated math to the private key, and that's how you get the public key, and that's how it knows it's linked.
Okay.
That's my rudimentary understanding of it.
All right.
Let's see. Where was I? Think of it like a thief spending hours building a universal safe cracking machine pre-computation. The machine works for any safe, but each time a new safe appears, it only needs a few final adjustments. And that last step is what takes about 9 minutes. That's the mempool attack. It's alarming, but requires a quantum computer that doesn't exist yet. Google's paper estimates such a machine would need fewer than 500,000 physical qubits. Today's largest quantum processors have around 1,000. The bigger and more immediate concern is the 6.9 million Bitcoin, roughly 1/3 of the total supply, that already sit in wallets where the public key has been permanently exposed. This includes early Bitcoin addresses from the network's first years that used a format called pay-to-public key, where the public key is visible on the blockchain by default. It also includes any wallet that has reused an address since spending from an address reveals the public key for all remaining funds. Well, that makes sense. So if you've put an address out there in a transaction previously, then this quantum computer could figure out the private key from it, and it just needs to wait for that address.
That's a little concerning,
another.
honestly, because I'm sure there are some people out there that send to the same address or receive to the same address for whatever reason. And so if it's been used repeatedly for you to get funds for your project, or if you're a creator and you are getting paid through Bitcoin and you have your public address out there, that address could be used to essentially hack your wallet. Is that what they're trying to tell us?
Yes. If you reuse the same address, it makes it more vulnerable to. Well, we already knew that it made it more vulnerable to being spied on, so it made it less private if you reuse the same address. And so a lot of us are already in the practice of generating a new address for each transaction. It's just best practice. So there's that, but a lot of people they haven't listened to that. They just see how it works, and maybe they use the same address forever. I
definitely need to be better at using different addresses, because I got in the habit of using similar addresses or same address or whatever for a period of time. And, for my podcast, I have crypto addresses that are virtually the same. So,
and there are ways to make it secure again. Like, you can use one address. Like, I know Ian had a Bitcoin address that started with one FTL Ian, and because you could get vanity addresses at some point. I don't know if you still can, but he had that one. He used it repeatedly, which is fine. What you would want to do with an address like that, and I have no idea what his practices were, but what you would normally want to do is take that Bitcoin and send it to a different wallet, or send it through a mixer, even better, to a different wallet. So
that makes sense. Like, using a mixer sounds like a good idea to hide your transactions and, thwart people looking at your addresses.
Right. You generally have, like, cold storage wallets, so that if one goes down or you lose it or something, it's not all of it. You have it split up. And anyways, go on with the story. These coins don't need the 9-minute race. An attacker with a sufficient powerful quantum computer could crack them at leisure, working through exposed keys one by one without any time pressure. Bitcoin's 2021 Taproot upgrade made this worse, as CoinDesk reported earlier Tuesday. Taproot changed how addresses work so that public keys are visible on-chain by default, inadvertently expanding the pool of wallets that would be vulnerable to a future quantum attack. Good job. Good job, core developers.
Yep, making everything worse.
Yeah, I mean, you halfway ruined it when you did SegWit in 2017. You just keep making it worse and worse. Pretty soon it'll be, what does Ernie call it? Fed.gov.sucks coin.
It wouldn't surprise me if it got to that point, because we know for a fact, at least we believe here at least I believe, that the Bitcoin network has been hijacked by Blockstream people. This is why we have Bitcoin Cash. The crypto wars have not ended. Mm-hmm. And now with quantum computing, I just had the thought that maybe if the government, through a private entity, decided, we're gonna just use this computer and take people's Bitcoin for the good of the country so we can put it in our reserve, they could easily do so. And that would not be good for the people holding Bitcoin.
Yep. It would make the entire Bitcoin network useless if you had a spook in the system just going around robbing people's wallets. And word would get around fast. So it says here, the Bitcoin network itself would keep running. Mining uses a different algorithm called SHA-256 that quantum computers can't meaningfully speed up with current approaches. Blocks would still be produced. The ledger would still exist. But if private keys can be derived from public keys, the ownership guarantees that make Bitcoin valuable break down. Anyone with exposed keys is at risk of theft, and institutional trust in the network security model collapses. The fix is post-quantum cryptography, which replaces the vulnerable math with algorithms that quantum computers can't crack. Ethereum has spent 8 years building toward that migration. Bitcoin hasn't even started. That's the end of that article. This is a struggle that I saw as being an ongoing thing. Yeah, and it's a serious problem because if you get one of the largest, most capable entities in the world right now, it might be governments, it might be banks, either one of those you don't really want messing with your money.
Right.
And so all they have to do is amass the most computing power, and they're in control of the money system. And that's a problem. See what I'm saying?
I do see what you're saying. I understand where you're coming from, because when the banks run the money, they can do whatever they want with it. They can turn off your bank account. They can say, Stu is not thinking the same things we are. Stu is saying bad things. We got to cut him off. He's an apostate.
Yeah, look at what they've been doing to you in the last 115 years or so, the bankers. And imagine what they could do with a digital currency, telling you, oh, you've reached your beef limit for this month. So, sorry, you already ate 1.5 pounds, and that's all you get for the whole month.
Or you've hit your coffee limit for the month.
Mm-hmm. We got
to make sure you don't drink too much coffee. After all, we're the government. We're here for your health.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's none of their business, right? I don't know how many of you, like, I know a lot of you want to be told what to do or whatever because you're lazy in your brain. Eat some Brazil nuts, it'll help with that. Eat too many, in fact. Go on the internet, read about it. It'll tell you get selenosis if you eat too many Brazil nuts. Selenosis is the condition which will cure, most likely, your slow brain because it's full of aluminum and fluoride, and selenium is the thing that flushes it out. But they'll tell you it's very dangerous, but go ahead and read on and find out how much selenium you actually have to have in order to, like, die from it or have permanent damage. And you're not going to eat that many Brazil nuts. So go ahead and chow down on them. Clean your brain out. It'll work a lot better.
How many Brazil nuts?
I drank a lot of fluoride in my youth, I think.
How many Brazil nuts should I have to make that happen every day?
I don't know. Start with 10. See how that works. If you can eat more, good. 20. Eat 20. Okay. Eat 30 a day. I don't know.
Have you tried eating 20 to 30 a day?
I think I did, like, at the most. You'll know when you go to the bathroom if you're eating too many of them. We'll put it that way.
All right.
Just listen to your body on that. But
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, eat them for a while and just let it do its thing. Also, iodine will help. So those are my tips for getting your brain working again. But for those of you that like to be told what to do, just imagine a world in which you're told down to the very minute detail, like how much gas you get to use this month, how much beef you get to eat, how much grains. Like this sounds like a nightmare to me. They already micromanage too much of my life. And I don't know, other people seem like they're somewhere around the threshold of being like, he has micromanaged too much, but people's capacity to be just told what to do is mind-blowing to me. But I don't know. I suppose I'm one of those with that, what do they call it?
Well, you would be an outlier, and I think in some sense I would be too, because I don't like being told what to do. And so my question is, like, why do you think people feel like they want to be told what to do, or they go toward a quote-unquote leader in whatever situation may arise? Like, for instance, there's a fire and you hear someone say, follow me, I'll lead you out, and look, follow that person. Why do you think people gravitate to those kinds of people?
It's some combination of lazy, scared, stupid. It's a lot of people want to attribute it to stupid. When you're on the other side and you can see what it is, then people want to call it stupid. And I have that tendency too, but it's not always necessarily stupid, because if you look closely at the people who are, the most voracious follow orders, they're really smart and they've figured out where the incentives are and they do it really well. To me, that's soul crushing, and I could never take that route. But some people are really good at it. Just you would call them the teacher's pet in class or something.
Yeah.
So, and And they're, a lot of them are incredibly intelligent, but they use all their brain power to figure out how to just satisfy the next incentive and hit the next, checkpoint on the list in order to get themselves in the good graces of whoever's telling them what to do. And a lot of times for those people, it's because they're scared of, they've been told there's a boogeyman out there, right?
And we're here to protect you from
anthrax
the boogeyman.
going through the mail, or there's there's a crazy Christian cult that's having sex with children in Waco, Texas, or there's always something to be scared of,
and people want someone to take that thing, the boogeyman, away, and so it makes sense that they want a leader to do that.
Mm-hmm. And whereas like most of these things are made up, and if you just sat down and thought about it real closely, like what is Iran going to do to me right here in New Hampshire? Probably not a whole lot. I mean, maybe if the goons up top keep acting the way they do, then maybe they will. But to me, it seems like I don't know. Honestly, I've seen a little bit of what it's like in Iran, and it's not the worst kind of Middle Eastern hellscape that you could imagine. That's more like Saudi Arabia, which is good.
Yeah.
Good friends with the U.S.
Yep.
And people living in a place like that, I'm of the opinion, fine, go ahead and let them, because they're not going to come here and affect me with it. And I'll even trade with them. I just don't want to go there. You know what I mean? Same thing with like the FLDS in southern Utah. I'm all in favor of just letting them do their thing.
Me too. I mean,
because what's the alternative?
Well, we could go in there and bust up their families and make sure they, aren't marrying off 14-year-old girls.
Yep, and they've done that from time to time. And what is it solved?
I don't think it's solved anything, honestly. I think it's broken up the group quite a bit, but
yeah, they moved some of them out to Texas, and some of them are still in Utah.
You also have more hardened followers of Warren Jeffs.
They actually increased quite a bit the actual human heartache that went on within that community.
Oh yeah.
The story that unfolds after the arrest of Warren Jeffs that's tragedy. Even though the man was a monster, it was almost better off if they just let it go and let the community deal with it themselves, because this guy wasn't going to go on the way he was for much longer.
I'm sure he wasn't. I'm sure when everything came out,
he was going to strip clubs. He was spending all kinds of money on. Like, he was a sinner. And he was going to get exposed and taken down by his own community. I'm sure.
And when the government found out, they're like, well, we got to stop this guy right here, right now. And so that led to raids. That led to the FLDS being hardened, being more willing to follow Warren Jeffs, I should say.
Yeah, from prison too. And now he just gives orders from prison, and he's just breaking up families from there. And lots and lots of tears from it. So good job on that one. And that's the way they handle these things. I don't know. Are you in favor of strong arm intervention into the lives of individuals or groups? Give us a call. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. You can talk about that or anything else that you'd like to. That's why it's called Free Talk Live.
Some of you have wanted to support Free Talk Live's mission on a monthly basis, but don't want to support Patreon. Now we have an alternative that also helps our premier streaming platform, Odyssey. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join at the top of the channel. You can subscribe for $5 per month, and unlike other subscription services, Odyssey adds their processing fee on top, so it'll cost a little over $5 per month, but Free Talk Live will receive the entire amount you pledged. Higher donation tiers are available if you're feeling so inspired. You'll get a special membership badge that's visible in the Odyssey chat room, and if we get enough supporters, we may enable members-only chat. This new subscription method is a great way to decentralize our direct listener support away from just Patreon and also support a libertarian-run business, Odyssey. Please visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join to subscribe to our Odyssey channel and help support spreading our message around the planet. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join today.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. The US says it's rescued one of the two crew members from a fighter jet that was shot down by Iran. President Donald Trump has been briefed on the situation as the search and rescue operation continues for the second person in that crew. Videos show a US transport plane and Black Hawk helicopter in the skies over Iran, apparently involved in that mission. The downed jet was reportedly a two-seater F-15E fighter jet with a two-man crew. It comes after US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the US had air superiority over Iran and could operate virtually unchallenged over the country. The Cuban government is releasing 2,000 prisoners in what it's calling a humanitarian and sovereign gesture. It comes as Washington has been putting increasing pressure on Cuba in recent months, including through a months-long oil blockade of the island. FSN's Mitch McCann reports.
Cuba's embassy in Washington said the release of the prisoners is designed to coincide with Holy Week, an important religious occasion in a country that's largely Catholic. According to the New York Times, the prisoner release includes young people, those over 60, foreign nationals and Cubans who live overseas. It's unclear if Cuba's decision is to appease Washington, whose oil blockade has contributed to devastating power outages in recent months. In March, Donald Trump told reporters he believed that he would have the honour of taking Cuba without providing further explanation as to what he meant. Mitch McCann, New York.
Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen says he and his team are feeling pretty good as their Orion spacecraft takes them to the far side of the moon. The 4 astronauts are now hundreds of thousands of miles from the Earth as part of NASA's Artemis II mission. FSN's Stuart Smith has more.
The trip will take the astronauts further from Earth than anyone has been before, in a mission to observe, but not land on, the far side of the moon, which is never visible from Earth. After slingshotting around the Earth a few times to build up momentum and the right trajectory, the crew are now directly on their way to the moon, and are the first people to leave the Earth's orbit since the 1970s. They're still a few days from reaching the moon, though, and in the meantime they'll check their equipment, control systems, and plan for the observations they'll be doing when they get close. In their first public video call since launching, Commander Reed Wiseman gave an update on their situation.
It was pretty tense moments there for a second, and I got to tell you, there is nothing normal about this. Sending 4 humans 250,000 miles away is a Herculean effort, and we are now just realizing the gravity of that.
The US economy added 178,000 jobs in March, above expectations. The US unemployment rate dropped slightly to 4.3%. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Talk radio you control. Give us a call. Let us know what you're thinking about. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. I'd like to thank Curry for being an amplifier with us here at Free Talk Live. That means that Curry went to amps.freetalklive.com and signed up to support the show. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. Thanks again to Curry and everyone who supports us. Again, that's amps.freetalklive.com if you'd like to check out the perks and benefits of becoming an amplifier. In the studio tonight, it's Stu.
And Riley O'Bill.
We got a caller on the line.
Excellent.
From Las Vegas, Nevada. I suspect that it might be one of our usual callers, but let's find out. Las Vegas, Nevada, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind? Yeah.
You know why leadership can be a good thing? It's because value is objective. And you know what?
When did I say leadership's not a good thing? Let's stick with that one. Let's go with that one.
You're talking about Brazilian nuts.
Yeah.
You're talking about Brazilian nuts.
Yeah, what about it?
But that wasn't the context of people thinking for themselves. Or did you not hear that part?
Even compulsory leadership, right? There's things called, objective value acknowledges people can
compulsory too. I'm okay with that even.
Aggressive leadership even.
Fine, sometimes yes. But it has to be legitimate, and that's the difference. Whence does it derive its legitimacy? That's the issue at hand.
From objective value.
From nothing, because that's non-existent.
So people should make decisions. So the allocation of decision making on markets determine who has money, right? Right makes might. I said it the right way.
I don't think right makes might, or might makes right.
Yeah, right makes might.
Not necessarily all the time.
Yeah,
charitable things happen.
Right makes might. Right makes might, right? So right is making good decisions where it increases total productivity for society, right? That's where objective value comes from, right? If I make a decision, even for somebody else, as long as it maximizes total productivity, it's a good thing.
No.
This is why
because
some aggression
because
is
what
wrong.
you value as being productive might not be the same thing that I value.
You know what objective means, Stu?
You might want toilet paper made, and I might use a bidet. You see what I'm saying?
Do you know what objective means, Stu?
Yes, I know what it means.
Are you applying-
Universal. Not
Then
exactly,
why are you
but
talking
almost.
About people's opinions. Why are you talking about people's opinions? Right? It's whoever's opinion.
Because there's no objective value.
Closest.
Tell me one thing that has
There's
objective value. One thing. Tell me.
Like, okay, just things like what GDP is trying to measure. To measure, right?
No, that's
Profit,
so easily
right?
debunked.
So,
like, why didn't you go
money-
for the low hanging fruit like air?
Here's another. No,
Because some people can slow their heart rate to like 8
Because
beats
I
per
wanna-
minute, and they
I
don't
wanna cut
value the
straight
air
to
the
the-
same way that you
I
do.
want to cut straight to the point. Things like profit, imperfectly, but are trying to measure objective value, right? Anytime we do a decision, right, we're rewarded with either profit or loss from the market, right? You agree with that, right? And it's kind of evolutionary, right? In evolutionary game theory, they call it fitness, evolutionary fitness. In the market, we call it profit and loss. These are all things that are trying to measure objective value, but they cannot do it perfectly. You know why?
Because they're
You know what
conceptual.
inhibits the measurement? No.
Yes, because they're conceptual. You're trying to quantify something that's not necessarily quantifiable.
It is quantifiable.
No,
That's-
see, and
that's
that's
why
the
they're trying to
problem.
measure it.
That's the problem with modern scientific and mathematical thought is that it thinks everything can be quantified, but it cannot.
It can be quantified. Even your thoughts can be quantified.
No.
Don't you think one day we'll be able to put your thoughts on a TV screen, on a digital screen?
I hope not.
That'd be horrifying.
They're already starting to do that.
Yeah, I know
They
it's
can
coming.
quantify your thoughts, your feelings. These are all. This is the false narrative put forth by the Austrian school, right? They just because they're scared of people planning for others. This is why they want value to be subjective. They don't want people making decisions for other people. But
Of course not.
No, it's because because the same thing doesn't bring us all joy. That's why.
Do you think you need to aggressively make decisions for your kids, Stu?
Occasionally it gets to the point of aggressive, yeah.
Why is that? Why
Because
don't you
that's the
respect their
natural order
opinion?
of things.
Because their opinions are wrong. They deviate from total. You have a sense
Yeah.
that productivity is ultimately good, right? What if your kids were a piece of crap, like Richie Rich, right? What if they didn't? What if you knew? What if you knew they didn't work all day, right? They would never work. Like somehow
That's
they
fine.
manage
You know, when I'm
that would
laying on
cause
my
them
deathbed
to
and
never-
I'm
would you
looking back at
follow what I'm
life and I'm like, oh, all the things I wish I would have done more of, work is not going to be on that list. I can guarantee it. And I worked plenty, but I'm not going to wish I had worked more. There's no way. So
No,
work is not a value in and of itself.
what-
Don't give me that
what-
Calvinistic crap.
You probably still spend most of your day working, right? And the rest of it recovering for work or raising your kids so that they can work in the future. It's all this production cycle. That's your only value.
Yeah, but it's toward what I value. Not what the market values. See, the market values.
You don't even.
The market values
You don't even.
Oreos and Twinkies and
junk food
and disposable appliances, right? And cheap throw away everything. And that's not where I place my
what's wrong
value.
with that? You don't want things to last forever.
For some things,
Why
yeah,
would you
I want
things
them
to
disposable.
last forever?
No, some things I want
Yeah, you
disposable.
want-
My car, I don't want disposable. I want that to last forever.
Yeah, Yeah, you do. You want to dispose of it as soon as it becomes obsolete with the new technology.
No, I don't.
Right?
No, I don't like the new technology. I barely trust cruise control. I don't want anything OnStar or newer.
Would you drive a Model T forever?
No, because that's not.
This is exactly
because
why.
that was not
This
the.
is exactly why people shouldn't make their own decisions. This is the.
Why I can't draw the line somewhere? Do you know what's the happiest population in America, Skeeter?
What's that?
Do you know what's the happiest subset of the population in America? The happiest group?
Native Americans.
No, it's the Amish.
The Amish.
Yeah. Yep, they report a far higher happiness quotient in their life than the rest of America.
Yeah?
So how do you explain that?
Where does the net migration go? To the Amish communities? How do people vote? How do people demonstrate their what they feel? I mean, is there net migration out of Amish communities or into Amish communities? I
don't know. I don't know that much about the Amish. I know they have a chance to leave. They're encouraged to even go explore the world.
This is the problem, right?
And a lot of them decide that Amish life is better.
It's because there's such objective value acknowledges things as people can be incompetent, even about their own interests, right? Means are not subjective, right? The means toward any goal are not subjective.
So who gets to decide who's wrong about what they want? Who gets to decide that? Who gets to decide what you're wrong about wanting?
The people who have shown in the past that they can make correct decisions, and that's people.
How do you evaluate if that decision is correct or not?
The Rothschilds get to decide what your wrong thing is.
No, well, actually, when you have a perfect money, which privacy inhibits, you'll know.
There's no such thing as a perfect money.
No, there's never been perfect money.
In fact, money doesn't even exist in nature.
What's that?
Money doesn't even exist in nature. It's a completely human-created invention.
In nature.
No, it's conceptual, man.
Money emerges. It comes from reputation. It's just reputation.
Oh yeah, because I see monkeys using it all the time. Oh wait, no, that doesn't happen. We're the only species that uses it.
Reputation. Money was supposed to be meant as reputation, but as society grows and gets more complex, and before technology, communication is tough. It's hard to distribute information in a big population.
So you had to go with an unnatural thing that you call money. Right? Reputation only extends as far as people that you know. And that's why you had to come up with money. And that is an artificial concept that humans came up with in order to represent the thing that does exist within nature. And you're trying to conflate the two.
What did you say?
I said, I said that.
I'm trying to make a point about.
You got to stop talking if you want me to explain a thing to you, Skeeter.
Well, you're not even getting my point.
Jeez, what is it like being inside of your brain, man?
Go ahead. So look, money was always meant to be reputation. How much you produce for society.
I don't think money was even meant to be.
How much more resources to give you in the future. It's a cycle, right? And as society grows...
No, this all comes from a scarcity mindset. Skeeter, you're so full of crap, dude. I can't take any more of this call. Thanks for the call tonight. Wow, man.
I admire your patience. Like, he does not seem to want to shut up and let you have a conversation with him.
And, I'd let him go on for a long time if he had smart things to say, but he's just so full of nonsense.
I know.
Like every single point he wants to make is built on a logical fallacy, and he won't admit it. And he just bullies his way through it, like keeps talking and never
Mark
shuts
said
up.
it last week. He might be an intelligent man, but he is also very socially inept, unfortunately.
I don't know. I kind of think he's doing it on purpose, but it's fine. It gives me an example for as much as I can get words in edgewise to show how where his thinking is so distorted, but I don't know. Maybe we'll get to an agreement on something one of these days. But
maybe we can hope.
Now, let's go to a different phone call. We got Turd Ferguson in Pennsylvania. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Well, look, nobody is more annoyed by Skeeter than me. But look, to be clear, and look, I like Austrian economics. I am still intellectually intrigued by them, but Rothbard and Mises's value theory is bullcrap. I find it to be kind of one of the big glaring holes in Austrian economics, and it's provable with just the fact that bubbles. It's always shocking to me that it's the Austrians that believe it, because it's disproven by the fact that bubbles burst.
Hold on, you're going to explain to me how a value can be objective?
I'm not talking about objective value. I just know that subjective value is bullcrap, and I can definitely disprove subjective value.
Well, isn't there only objective or subjective?
I don't know. I don't deal in philosophical things like that. I deal in facts, and here's how I know that subjective value is bullcrap. Because there was a time in this country in the mid-2000s where people thought subjectively that houses were worth way more than they actually were. And the housing bubble popped, and then they went back down to not zero, but they did come back down to earth. But they didn't go to zero. They went to the real natural sort of value of what the houses were actually valued at that time, which proves that there is something called intrinsic value. And you can live in a house, you can do something with it. That gives it intrinsic value.
There is intrinsic value, but that's different than being objective.
Maybe. I don't know. There are some people that would say that objective and intrinsic value are the same things. I don't know if I'm one of those people, but I have heard that argument before. And I don't know, maybe
so intrinsic value just means that it can be used by anyone for the same, to get the same result, right? But the value part has to do with how much do you value that result? One person might value it differently than the other, and that's what makes it subjective.
Well, I suppose so, but the thing is that regardless of who you are, I could walk up to a house in a suburban neighborhood that's in good shape and say, okay, I could live in that, and you could live in that, and any individual in the world could live in it. And that gives it inherent intrinsic value, right?
Right.
So the point that I'm trying to make is,
but one person you couldn't pay to live in that house, and another person would be very happy to have that house.
Well, yeah. You could. But I'm not. Yeah, economics aside, or I'm sorry, financials aside. I'm just saying that regardless of who you are, someone in the world, anybody that you randomly choose, you just line 8 billion people up and you pick one randomly, and they could live in that house if they really had to. Okay.
Right. Yeah, that's what intrinsic value is. Yes.
Right. Yeah. So my point is that, look, objective value aside, because it sounds like there's some disagreement on what objective value is, but intrinsic value exists, and subjective value is bullcrap based on all the bubbles that have popped in history. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know. Maybe this will help you. Subjective value would be like everybody placing the same level of value on that home. So everybody goes to auction and everybody bids the exact same number on it. Whereas that's not the reality, because somebody would rather live in their camper than a house.
Oh, yeah. Well, sure. And I'm not. And again, financials aside, I mean, yeah, there's one house might have slightly more financial value to someone than it does another. I'm not debating that.
Well, I'm saying somebody feels more free in their camper than they would in a mansion, like the nicest house you could possibly imagine. Somebody would still rather live in their camper.
Right, and someone might feel more free in a mansion than they do in a camper, and vice versa. Okay, That's not the argument I'm making. Is that intrinsic value though is real, and some people, and I don't know if Skeeter's one of them, would maybe say that objective value is the same. I don't know if I'm one of those people, but I'm just saying that intrinsic value is a thing.
Yeah, and it is. I think Skeeter would claim that money has intrinsic value, whereas I would claim that it doesn't. Only the things that you trade the money for have intrinsic value.
Yeah, well, I can prove that.
And even
money
then, not always.
Does not. Yeah, I can. Well, at least fiat currency. I can prove with another thought experiment that money does not have intrinsic value, and you can look at examples like Zimbabwe or Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Or United States.
Yeah, or many other examples in history where currency's been devalued into oblivion, and then it really doesn't actually have any intrinsic value because some people just don't need it. As a matter of fact, there are many people that really wouldn't even accept it. You know what I mean?
I'm sure we could also say too that when the white people came over here in the early, whenever they did, the 1400s, 1500s, if they were to hand a native a gold coin, they wouldn't know what to do with it. They wouldn't value it the same. So I don't know if that.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I'm willing to bet you.
No, this is true. There are history books recorded where there were European settlers that showed up in parts of Africa, and the gold was so plentiful you could just pick it up off the ground. And there were natives living there. They had no use for it. They didn't know what to do with gold.
Well, I mean, look, I'm not saying that people's intelligence levels are all the same either.
Yeah, but what were they going to do with the gold? You can't eat it.
Sure, well, you can do a lot of other things with it, that's for sure.
You could trade it to Europeans or the Chinese. That's what you could do with it. And they didn't know that. They had no reason to even think about that.
I guess the second the settlers showed up, they could do something with it now, couldn't they? But look, I'm willing to bet you that if I were to take some gold and fly, if I could, to another planet somewhere in some foreign solar system, that I'm willing to bet you that I could buy something with it if I wanted to right now.
It'd be funny if you landed on that planet and it was just made of gold.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if chemically that's possible to sustain life. I mean, I guess you want to get into a debate about biology and evolution, we can, but I don't know if chemically that's sustainable. But I'm willing to bet, though, if I were to hop in a spaceship and fly to some other planet with some gold, I could buy something with it. I'm willing to bet you.
Well,
I've
heard.
But that's all I had. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yep.
And just tell you guys that, look, I don't know about objective value, but I do know that the subjective theory of value that I've read about in a lot of Austrian economics books, I find it to be kind of just as much of a load of garbage. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks for the call. I can get on board with that. The Austrians don't get everything right. They do drive at some very fundamental points, though, I think, about the individual human's choice.
Right. And in my opinion, they're the closest we've got to being as correct as we can be. I mean, there's no such thing as a perfect system, so.
Mm-hmm. And, yeah. Yep. So, that was a good call. Thanks, Turd.
Yeah.
All right. What should we get into next? There's lots of war to talk about.
There definitely is. Like, Trump has given Iran another ultimatum to open up the Straits of Hormuz, and...
Yeah, except that it's open, you know?
Yeah.
Just not to America or Israel, because you guys are being jerks, so stop.
I'm sure it's open to China.
Yep. Yeah, it's open. There's oil flowing through there. It's just not for us. Thanks, Trump.
You're welcome, Trump would say.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome. I'm glad I'm making the greatest country on earth. We're going to be the wealthiest country on earth. The golden age has arrived.
Yep. And so now they're like, screaming about how because now fertilizer is a petroleum product, that you're not going to have enough fertilizer to grow food and feed people. This is why I don't watch news, because that's just such nonsense. I don't know if you know, but dandelions, those things you go out there and spray with Roundup so they die or whatever, like, those things are food.
Yeah.
You can eat those.
You can make dandelion tea, you can eat the leaves.
And, like, food is not scarce. It doesn't need to be scarce, and it's not necessarily scarce. They're trying real hard with their Monsanto tactics and all of that to make food scarce, and they might actually have some real food shortages now that you've gone on the truckitarian diet and put all your faith in, the East India Empire trading. So, I don't know. That's what you're going to get. But, let's see. We got a caller here. Dave Ridley is called. Dave Ridley, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to continue this sort of series I've been doing on what was going on in the Free State movement 20 years ago this month.
Cool.
And I say this month, that's probably an exaggeration. I can remember what happened in 2006. Oftentimes I forget exactly which month it was. So really, it's this year, 20 years ago. So there were a couple of important developments in the Free State movement. One of them was that our first state rep was elected. That was Joel Winters, I think from Manchester at the time. And he was elected as a Democrat, so a libertarian running as a Democrat, becoming a member of a legislature. This was not super common back in those days anywhere. And so it made the news, and we were glad to have him, having that success. And I believe also the first piece of Free Stater-sponsored legislation passed into law. I think this was 2006, and it was Dawn Lincoln, an early Free State Project mover, who moved to New Hampshire for more freedom. And she got, I guess we would call it I think it was called the Homeschool Paperwork Reduction Act. So it just made it easier to be a homeschooler.
Okay.
So these seem like pretty small accomplishments today compared to what happens almost every month in New Hampshire. But at the time, they were a big deal.
Yeah, it had to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And there was a continuation of this sort of one of the previous calls I was telling you, Free Staters sort of discovered civil disobedience in 2005, and it resulted in sort of an explosion of civil disobedience that continued on into about 2011. And in 2006, I sort of got my first dose of it kind of by accident, because I walked into an IRS office and held a sign and handed out leaflets. So these were, actually, I wasn't the first one to do this. Russell Canning had done it earlier in 2006. He went into an IRS office, handed out leaflets, tried to get in there. He tried to go in. He wanted to overturn some of the tables inside their building, and he announced in advance.
That's funny.
He's going to do this. He's going to try to do what Jesus did at the market,
Nice. Hey, if you got more to this story, we can hold you over coming up against it. Give us a call. It's Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. Let us know what's on your mind.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. In addition to being one of the world's first cryptocurrencies, Dash was the first crypto project to have a decentralized autonomous organization that to this day continues to improve and promote Dash. Every month, 10% of the mining rewards go into a treasury. Anyone with one Dash to spend can put forward a proposal to the Dash masternodes. The masternodes vet the proposals and decide which ones move forward and are funded by that treasury. Nowadays, DAOs are plentiful, but Dash paved the way by doing it first, nearly a decade ago. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at dash.org. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann with the Week in Review. On Friday, the United States said it had rescued one of two crew members from a fighter jet shot down by Iran. President Donald Trump was briefed as a search and rescue operation continued. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
Videos show a US transport plane and Black Hawk helicopter in the skies over Iran, apparently involved in the rescue mission. Officials say one of the crew has now been rescued and is receiving hospital treatment. The whereabouts of the second crew member are still unknown. The downed jet was reportedly a two-seater F-15E fighter jet with a two-man crew. It comes after US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the US had air superiority above Iran and could operate virtually unchallenged over the country.
Meanwhile, a spokesperson for the Iranian military this week warned of incoming crushing, broader and destructive attacks after the US president said the war would continue for another 2 to 3 weeks. In a speech to the nation, Donald Trump said the US is on track to soon complete all of its military objectives against Iran. Ross Callan reports.
The response from Tehran after the primetime speech from the US leader was a warning that the US and Israel, quote, must pay for the aggression you initiated. A military spokesperson said Iran's military production takes place in places that you don't know at all, rejecting claims made by the United States leader that Iran's weapons stockpile had been widely depleted. There's no sign of a ceasefire in sight at the moment, with Iran's foreign ministry rejecting Donald Trump's claim that the country had asked for a halt to the fighting as baseless.
Meanwhile, US Supreme Court justices cast doubt on President Trump's attempts to restrict birthright citizenship, one of his most ambitious policy endeavours. The president took the unprecedented step of attending the High Court for oral arguments as conservative and liberal justices questioned the legality of his attempt to block the children of illegal immigrants born on US soil from automatically becoming citizens. Kate Fisher reports from the US Supreme Court.
Quite the welcome for President Donald Trump as he became the first sitting president to hear oral arguments at the Supreme Court over whether his executive order limiting birthright citizenship is legal. One of his arguments is that if unrestricted, it leads to so-called birth tourism, where pregnant women travel to the US to give birth so that their baby can have American citizenship. But the Chief Justice, John Roberts, seems skeptical. The justices also had vigorous questions for ACLU lawyer Cecilia Wang, but she found notably less resistance in her defense of birthright citizenship. A decision is expected by the end of June or early July.
Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen says he and his team are feeling pretty good as the Orion spacecraft takes them to the far side of the moon. The 4 astronauts are now hundreds of thousands of miles from Earth as part of NASA's Artemis II mission. Stuart Smith has more.
The trip will take the astronauts further from Earth than anyone has been before, in a mission to observe, but not land on, the far side of the moon, which is never visible from Earth. After slingshotting around the Earth a few times to build up momentum and the right trajectory, the crew are now directly on their way to the moon, and are the first people to leave the Earth's orbit since the 1970s. They're still a few days from reaching the moon, though, and in the meantime they'll check their equipment, control systems, and plan for the observations they'll be doing when they get close. In their first public video call since launching, Commander Reed Wiseman gave an update on their situation.
It was pretty tense moments there for a second, and I got to tell you, there is nothing normal about this. Sending 4 humans 250,000 miles away is a Herculean effort.
And finally this week, Pakistan and Afghanistan resumed talks in China, with Beijing mediating to calm tensions between the two sides. This comes as Middle East turmoil fuels wider regional instability. Analysts warn that easing pressure along the Afghan border is essential as Pakistan's military faces the risk of being stretched across both its western and Iranian frontiers. Hira Mustafa reports from Islamabad.
Pakistani officials say the talks aim to find common ground to tackle terrorists allegedly operating from Afghanistan, a charge Kabul denies. Beijing is mediating to try to broker a ceasefire. Clashes between the two neighbors since February have been the most intense in decades, leaving dozens injured on both sides of the border. Pakistan and Afghanistan representatives are meeting in China's northern city of Urumqi. Experts stress that stability in Pakistan's western border region is crucial, especially amid uncertainty in Iran. With Islamabad sharing a 900 kilometers border with Iran, any instability there could put additional strain on Pakistan's military.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
A new report by the Department of Health and Human Services has found that the average male is 4,000% less effective in fights than he imagines, casting powerful doubts on many men's claims that they could take someone out in 2 seconds or smash a guy's face in with their fist.
On average, men describing hypothetical fights overestimated their level of combat skill by a factor of 40, with 80% of males incorrectly predicting they could mess a guy up real bad with one solid punch to the jaw. During actual physical altercations, however, these men were statistically more likely to end up hurting themselves, or, most commonly, trying to diffuse the tension by nervously saying, "Hey man, let's all just calm down, okay?" before any fighting even came to pass.
Researchers discovered that men were significantly weaker than they verbally indicated while chatting with friends in bars and locker rooms, and that men who were 90% sure they could tear someone a new asshole tended to succeed in fewer than 1 in 10 fights.
This is the Onion News Network.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. Talk radio you control. Are you tired of the oppressive rules and moderation of the big tech social media sites? Our Mastodon server at social.freetalklive.com can set you free. Mastodon is free, open source, decentralized, and federated. Multiple apps are available for iOS, Android, Windows, Mac, and Linux. Social.freetalklive.com. In the studio tonight, it's Stu.
And Riley O'Bill.
We were talking with Dave Ridley about 20 years ago in New Hampshire. Dave, go ahead and continue with your story, please.
Yeah, and actually not just in New Hampshire. Where I pick up the story is in Keene, New Hampshire. Russell Canning lived in Keene, where you guys are broadcasting from at that time, and he's a Christian anarchist, activist, civil disobedience guy.
Flat earther, too. I like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's all I know.
He's a character.
Good thing about him, but okay.
Yep, Russell's a good guy.
Sometimes people throw the baby out with the bathwater.
I like the flat earth thing. I don't think it's actually flat, but I do like the thought experiment.
Well, it's, all ideas should be on the table. What was it George Orwell said? If any thought is forbidden, then all thoughts are forbidden because they could lead to the forbidden thought.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so he goes into this IRS office, and he's claiming he's going to try to overturn their tables. But that actually turned out not to be that big a deal. What I think they arrested him and charged him with was handing out flyers. So, I guess he never even made it to the table. They had Homeland Security there and everything, and they seized him because he announced in advance he was going to do it. And he got thrown in jail for handing out flyers. He was charged with distribution of handbills. If I recall, that's how it played out. So this
Wimps.
Started.
They should have let him get to the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
This created a phenomenon I call follow-up civil disobedience. So I think I've done a pretty good job of not talking about myself a whole bunch during this series of historical stories. But in this case, I'm kind of part of the story. So I went and imitated Russell by walking into an IRS office unannounced and handing out leaflets. I also held a sign, and I refused to speak to anyone. I just handed out the leaflet. Well, this is something I had already done over at a bureaucrat office in Concord at the tax. It was the state tax office, like the state equivalent of the IRS. So I had already done almost exactly the same thing, where I just stand there with a sign, hand out flyers, and leave when they tell me to. Well, at the New Hampshire office, the guy who was in charge of all New Hampshire taxes came out, shook my hand, answered the questions on the flyer, and actually sort of became a friend of mine.
Nice.
But at the IRS office, called the police, the local police. They called Homeland Security, which arrived about an hour later. They backed me out of the building. The police backed me out, and but again, I did leave. And a couple weeks later, Homeland Security appeared at my home for having stood in that office and handed out flyers. So they had a charge for me, which was distribution of handbills.
What kind of charge
same
is
as-
distribution of handbills? Does anybody know?
It's not a law. It's a federal regulation. And I
Okay.
don't remember the name of the regulation. It's CRS something, I think. They hauled me into court, or they wanted me to pay a $125 fine, like a ticket. You know, it was just considered a violation.
Mm-hmm.
And I refused to pay it at first, or at least I didn't pay it.
Nice.
And so they hauled me into court to, you know, for me to. I think it's actually what I think what happened was, it wasn't so much that I refused to pay it at first. It was more that I just went through the legal process. Does that make sense? To try and get out of the charge.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like taking a traffic ticket to court. But this is the federal court where nothing ever happens. No one ever goes there because everyone pleads out, right?
Yep.
And so, you know, I brought activists with me. We probably usually had about 15 people in the courtroom. And I always would schedule a demonstration in advance. And they found me guilty of distribution of handbills. And they said, okay, you can pay your fine on the way out. So I just kind of left without paying the fine. And so months later, they contacted me again, and they said, hey, you need to show up in court again to explain why you haven't paid the fine yet. And at some point in there, I just sent a note to the judge, you know, quoting Rosa Parks and saying that I'll never pay it. And I said, I'm not going to tell the public this. You know, so if for some reason you were never to prosecute me anymore on this, no one would even know that I had not paid. But if you want to, you can prosecute me, I guess. So sure enough, you know, over a period of about 6 months, they kept hauling me back into court. Why haven't you paid yet? And every time I'd schedule a demonstration or whatnot, eventually they just said, okay, the judge just said, okay, I sentence you to 4 days incarceration. And they just took me into jail on the spot for not paying that fine.
Okay.
Wow.
How was that stay?
So they sent me to Essex in Massachusetts, and it was interesting. So the first thing that happened was they stick me in the van that takes you to Essex, and what they do is they shackle you. So my hands are tied. I can't remember if they tied. I don't think they tied me to anything. So I was loose in the vehicle. My hands were tied, and I think my feet were tied together. So if they had had an accident, I would have just, let's imagine they had a rollover. I would have tumbled helplessly until the final snap, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first part of the experience. And then the next thing that I remember happening is I get to Essex, and I had sort of done some planning and some studying. There's an organization called, they used to call themselves, what do they call it? The Embassy of Heaven out in Oregon. And they were Christian anarchists who would refuse to take a driver's license. And so they were always going to jail. And they talked about how important it was to try and avoid giving the jail any information because it just locks up their system. So I thought, well, yeah, I can do that. You know, I won't try to do all the different types of resistance that you could do in jail, but just try to mostly just do that one thing. And it works pretty well. It actually does kind of lock up their system, freaks them out. What happened, they had to put me in solitary, and they
just not answering their questions? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I guess they wanted to know who I was, what my date of birth was, and stuff like that, whether I had tuberculosis, whether I would consent to a tuberculosis test, and all that. I just kept saying no to most of this stuff. And so, yeah, they took all my clothes, seized my glasses, so I was legally blind for a couple days, and they just stuck me in this room with all these suspicious brown splotches on the wall.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
And word started spreading around the jail that there was this guy who wasn't telling them any information, and they had taken his clothes and his glasses, right? So it had a pretty positive effect, and people, it made the other detainees pretty friendly toward me.
Okay.
And the other thing you can do, I didn't completely do this, but if you either fast or give up some of your meals, what I started to do was, like, whenever I would enter a room with 20 other inmates or something like that, I would just hold up whatever food I had and say, hey, I'm not going to eat this. Anybody want it? And they'd grab it up, and everybody's my friend.
Mm-hmm.
So that was another trick. I think I got that from the Embassy of Heaven. And, there's a lot of stuff I'm forgetting probably that was really interesting that happened. But one thing I haven't forgotten is one of the guards who thought I was really interesting. And he's like, "What's going on with you? How come you're not, why don't you have any clothes? And what's going on? And why are you here?" And he said, "Man, I would have paid the fine. What are you doing here?" And I told him, that I had a little bit of a following. There were a few hundred people maybe that were following my situation pretty closely. And there was maybe 50,000 listeners on Free Talk Live. And he's like, "Oh, okay, you're crazy. I know you're nut now because obviously there's not 50,000 people paying attention to you." The next day he came back and he'd looked at the internet. He's like, "Okay, you're a crazy militia guy who everyone is following and you're a cult leader."
Yep.
Isn't that funny? They got to put you in a box somewhere.
Yeah, and this is the guy who sees my glasses, right? But we established a good relationship, and his superior, introduced me to the jail, and I told him, "Yeah, I'm not going to do. This is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to answer these questions." He's like, "Well, you're going to get in trouble, and I'm not going to tolerate you giving my people any trouble." And I said, "Listen, I know that if you torture me, you will be able to eventually make me do what you want me to do. So if you have a policy of torturing people, then I guess you will be able to do, what's your plan there? Are you going to torture me into giving this information?" He's like, whoa. No, we're not planning on torturing you. It's not like that. And I said, "If you were ordered to torture me, would you torture me?" He said, "Well, yeah."
Yeah.
Well, they got to follow orders after all.
Yeah. So anyway, all these different things occurred. There was one point where there was some piece of information they wanted from me, and I think I gave it to them. And that was an important lesson. One of the guards walked up to me and said, "Hey, I heard you back down," right? And it really took wind out of the sails of the process that I had been building, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I learned never to do that again.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting experience.
Eventually they threw me back into the van, 4 days later, and off I go back to Concord from Massachusetts. And then they released me at Concord. And there was a little crowd waiting for me outside to greet me and give me a ride home.
Cool.
That's really cool. I love it.
Yeah, all that for distribution of handbills. Thanks for the call tonight, Dave.
That is really cool. I love Ridley's stories. I love hearing about what happened in New Hampshire in his past with the activists.
Mm-hmm.
Because it gives me some courage that when I do my activism, I'll at least have an idea of what to do.
Yeah, those old videos from back in the day, street activism and Gain, they're quite inspiring.
They definitely are.
All right, let's go to another call now from Tucson, Arizona. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Go for it. Go ahead.
Good. Sometimes this mic dies. Hey, you guys ever support SIP anymore, or is that just was that an Ian thing?
What is it?
Yeah.
Oh, the SIP line?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
I don't know if we've used that line since Ian went to prison.
Yeah, I don't think that's currently in use.
I tried calling on that at one point. It just went right to I remember, went to some kind of error message or something, but I didn't get any message saying, "Hey, well, hold on here. We'll be right with you," or I didn't hear the show, so I thought I'd ask. Anyway, I have to give a lot of props to Dave Ridley. I mean, that's quite a story there. And there was a lady who, God, I'm trying to remember her name now, who did something very similar back in the day. Basically was arrested and said absolutely nothing.
I think that may have been Lauren Canario.
That's her. Yeah, Lauren Canario. Yeah, she gets a lot of props from me too, because she had the guts to just say, "No, I'm not going to cooperate, and you guys got to figure it out on your own." So that's a lot of what New Hampshire means to me, is that collecting people like that to stand up and go, "Okay, well, let's see how we can build this better society one piece at a time." So,
Mm-hmm.
one of the aspects of this, I know there was during the break, there was an actual commercial talking about, don't use the government's money. And I think that's probably a good thing to investigate as well, seeing as how with technology keep getting better, there's more and more options to use different kinds of currency, whether it's Bitcoin or other cryptos or gold or goldbacks or, a lot of choices. But
Yes,
the other aspect of it is that so many people are bamboozled into giving the government money, not just using their money, but handing it over because they claim, oh, you owe it to us. Why? Because we passed this law, saying you owe an income tax. And that's another thing that technology has revealed, that the income tax actually is not levied upon the average person, because the laws that refer to all the stuff that people quote, well, it says right here in Section 61, the blah 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 blah. But if you do your homework and research who all that applies to, the sections that talk about that only apply to activities and persons who are under the exclusive jurisdiction of the Congress. Okay, there are people who live under the exclusive jurisdiction of the Congress, but that's not you and me.
Yeah, it's like DC residents and federal employees, as far as I understand it.
Exactly. So if you're not one of them, none of that stuff applies to you. Okay. And the idea that you have to sign this form saying that, well, actually, my income isn't really mine. It actually belongs to this foreign person. But I'm standing in his stead, so I'm liable for the tax, and so I'll pass it along to you guys. And it's called a W-9, and that's one of the great shadow.
One of the great deceits.
Yeah, thank you, deceits. Good word. I was looking for a word like that. Because if you go find a book called Income Tax Shattering the Myths by Dave Champion, and if you go to drreality.us, not US? Oh, crap. What's the domain? News, drreality.news. And no, this is not a paid, commercial announcement, okay? He doesn't give me any money to talk about him, and I wish he would call in, because he's a lot more articulate about this than I am, since he spent 20 years of research writing the book. And I recently had a conversation with him wherein I took the contents of a pamphlet that he publishes, which is basically a heads up to employers saying, hey, here's why I don't need a 1099, okay? And it goes into a bunch of citations of law that explains what the W-9 is for and what it isn't for. And so I text, optical character recognition, the text, and sent it to ChatGPT. And ChatGPT, follows the government line and says, well, no, this guy's completely wrong. He's got his head up his butt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I sent that information. I edited it a bit, and I actually paid for some of his time just to hear him respond. And he said, yeah, the problem is that these chatbots get trained on information, but where do they get the information? And they may see 20% of tax law because that's available on the line, and who's publishing that? Well, law firms and CPAs and the government. Okay. But if you really look into that, there's another 70% that ChatGPT don't know nothing about. So
that's right. If you think it's so smart, it can't even tell you how many laws are on the books.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I invite people to go to drreality.news and look at the stuff he's got there. Income Tax Shattering the Myths is a book that I was listening to him back in 2004, 5, 6, 7, back when he had a podcast. and he actually was on the radio in some markets, and he was talking about him writing this book, and so he published it. Well, it's probably about 10 years ago now that he actually published it, but that reveals the whole picture. And one of his recent podcasts, where he talked about why the IRS is still using 1960s, 70s computer technology, and instead of upgrading to all the modern stuff. And his response to that was, well, because if you show a programmer, okay, of here's what the law actually says, and this is what we have to program into the computer, the jig would be up. So they're limping along with their old hardware because they don't want to reveal the truth. It's kind of like honor among thieves, you know. They don't actually lie to you. They just, you know, it's by sins of omission.
It sure sounds like they're definitely withholding things. I actually was talking to someone working for a government agency the other day, I think for the Social Security Administration, and they were saying that their system is MS-DOS, and it's done that way to keep the system most secure because MS-DOS is more secure than Windows or something like that, and that's their excuse.
Yeah, well, you stick to that story, but anyway, if you know, once you really understand what's going on and what the law actually says, and the basic idea, if you talk to somebody who understands how the law works, there's something called jurisdiction, okay? And the first thing you ask in any kind of a legal thing is, where is this jurisdiction? Who has jurisdiction? And mainly, do you, the person making the claim, have jurisdiction over me? And where does it come from? And most people just jump right over that. You know, somebody makes a claim and then you start answering it. And as soon as you start answering the claim, then you've already assumed that their jurisdiction exists. Whereas the first thing you do is you say, okay, you've made a claim. Can you back that up? Okay, you claim there's this law. Okay, how do you establish, you know, using only facts, that law applies to me? You know, okay, how am I the guy that this law is referring to? And you know, you never hear, you know, people asking that question. It's because we're trained not to.
Yep. And from my understanding, if you pose that question to them, they'll point at things like your driver's license and the use of your social security number, and I think maybe passport. There's a few things they'll point to say, see, this is what makes you a U.S. citizen. And so you really got to know your stuff, because they'll definitely have some things to try to trip you up with. Looks like this guy has written a book that might be useful for anybody interested in this topic. Well, several books, I guess. He's got Business Guide to Payroll Withholding. He's got Income Tax Shattering the Myth, I think. And that's
the main book that goes through the entire story.
Yep. So. All right, thanks for the call. Go to that website. It was drreality.news. If you're interested in this, it seems like the guy at least has done a little bit of his own research. He may be fairly credible.
He may be, yeah.
Give us a call, 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live.
Shortly after posting for the 10,000th time on his Twitter account earlier today, despite only ever accumulating 15 followers, local man Aaron Gartner announced he's about ready to quit the popular microblogging site.
Well, I opened my account about 2 years ago and tweeted pretty much every day since, and it didn't really turn out like I expected. I thought, once I hit 8,000 tweets, I could get some traction, start getting more followers, but it never really happened. I mean, I gave it my best shot, I guess, but I think I'm about done here.
He has yet to be followed by anyone beyond a handful of friends, family members, and seemingly inactive accounts.
This one time I tweeted out a pretty good joke about how out of control Lindsay Lohan is, and it actually got me a retweet. It was from this guy in Argentina I don't know, who doesn't have any followers, and he's not following anyone else. Oh, hold on a sec. Apparently my aunt's following me now. Cool.
This is the Onion News Network.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. The US says it's rescued one of the 2 crew members from a fighter jet that was shot down by Iran. President Donald Trump has been briefed on the situation as the search and rescue operation continues for the second person in that crew. Videos show a US transport plane and Black Hawk helicopter in the skies over Iran, apparently involved in that mission. The downed jet was reportedly a 2-seater F-15E fighter jet with a 2-man crew. It comes after US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the US had air superiority over Iran and could operate virtually unchallenged over the country. The Cuban government is releasing 2,000 prisoners in what it's calling a humanitarian and sovereign gesture. It comes as Washington has been putting increasing pressure on Cuba in recent months, including through a months-long oil blockade of the island. FSN's Mitch McCann reports.
Cuba's embassy in Washington said the release of the prisoners is designed to coincide with Holy Week, an important religious occasion in a country that's largely Catholic. According to the New York Times, the prisoner release includes young people, those over 60, foreign nationals and Cubans who live overseas. It's unclear if Cuba's decision is to appease Washington, whose oil blockade has contributed to devastating power outages in recent months. In March, Donald Trump told reporters he believed that he would have the honour of taking Cuba without providing further explanation as to what he meant. Mitch McCann, New York.
Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen says he and his team are feeling pretty good as their Orion spacecraft takes them to the far side of the moon. The 4 astronauts are now hundreds of thousands of miles from the Earth as part of NASA's Artemis II mission. FSN's Stuart Smith has more.
The trip will take the astronauts further from Earth than anyone has been before, in a mission to observe, but not land on, the far side of the moon, which is never visible from Earth. After slingshotting around the Earth a few times to build up momentum and the right trajectory, the crew are now directly on their way to the moon, and are the first people to leave the Earth's orbit since the 1970s. They're still a few days from reaching the moon, though, and in the meantime they'll check their equipment, control systems, and plan for the observations they'll be doing when they get close. In their first public video call since launching, Commander Reed Wiseman gave an update on their situation.
It was pretty tense moments there for a second, and I got to tell you, there is nothing normal about this. Sending 4 humans 250,000 miles away is a Herculean effort, and we are now just realizing the gravity of that.
The US economy added 178,000 jobs in March, above expectations. The US unemployment rate dropped slightly to 4.3%. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Talk radio you control. You're welcome to call in. Let us know what you're thinking about. The phone number here is 603-283-6160. Free Talk Live is brought to you by LibertyMinded.com. Official Free Talk Live gear like t-shirts and hoodies are available at LibertyMinded.com. Plus you'll find a unique collection of cool and funny liberty-oriented clothing at LibertyMinded.com. That's LibertyMinded.com. In the studio tonight, it's Stu.
And Riley O'Bell.
Well, nobody is on the line right now. So, I guess, I don't know, some astronauts are going around the moon.
Yep, we have Artemis 2 is going around the moon. And
why is there a nuclear program up there they got to stop? Are they sending fentanyl from the moon? Is there a reason?
I think the reason is to go take pictures of the far side of the moon and then come back.
So just for funsies?
Yeah, just for funsies, essentially.
Oh, cool. So here's a story that might make that chafe a little bit. This is from Matt Agorist at the Free Thought Project.
All right.
As Americans go broke, the U.S. empire goes full on bread and circuses. Washington is masking the reality of a crumbling economy and neoconservative war drums with UFC spectacles, direct-to-phone propaganda, and the ultimate vanity play, putting a politician's signature on your devalued fiat currency. See when this was written, April 4th. You can add sending guys to the other side of the moon to this list. The legendary French Queen Marie Antoinette never actually told the starving peasants to eat cake, but the modern-day ruling class in Washington is currently shouting it through a taxpayer-funded megaphone. As Americans watch their purchasing power evaporate and the threat of global conflict climb, the Trump administration has responded not with relief, but with a series of high-gloss, ego-driven distractions that would make a Roman emperor blush. It is a grotesque display of vanity, operating under the guise of American exceptionalism while the working class foots the bill. The latest slap in the face came as the Treasury Department announced that for the first time in 165 years, a sitting president's signature will appear on U.S. paper currency. Hooray!
Yay, I'm so excited!
Treasury officials praised the move as a way to recognize historic achievements, while the actual achievement most Americans are feeling is a crippling spike in natural gas costs and grocery prices that refuse to stabilize. To brand the very notes that are losing value by the hour is to literally sign the receipt for the theft of the American worker's labor through the hidden taxation of inflation. While you struggle to decide between filling the gas tank or the fridge, the White House is busy transforming the South Lawn into a cage-fighting arena. The administration's plans for USC Freedom 250, a massive MMA event scheduled to coincide with the president's 80th birthday, is the bread and circuses strategy in its absolute purest form. The state provides a $60 million taxpayer-subsidized circus because it can no longer afford to let you have the bread. The gaslighting extends far beyond the cage, bleeding directly into the geopolitical arena where the drums of war with Iran are beating louder by the day. The administration claims to be the vanguard of peace, even the board of peace. Or does that just mean he's bored of peace?
I almost wonder if you're right, because he might just be bored of peace or trying to achieve peace because he's seeming to want to drag the world into war.
Yeah, tired of winning and bored of peace. That's what it is. The administration claims to be the vanguard of peace, yet continuously moves the machinery of empire into position, violating the core tenets of the Constitution while demanding blind patriotism. They want you distracted by a gold coin with a politician's face on it so you won't ask why the blood of America's youth is being prepped for the altar of the military-industrial complex. In a futile attempt to maintain this illusion, the establishment's favorite conservative echo chambers have shifted into overdrive, acting as full-time stenographers for the state. Outlets like Fox News, Newsmax, and Newsweek are bending over backward to paint a picture of a savior president, peddling the absolute fiction that the MAGA base is unified in complete lockstep behind these neoconservative foreign policy disasters. It is a coordinated media campaign designed to isolate and silence any genuine anti-war dissent from within the right. But that carefully constructed facade is already cracking under the weight of its own hypocrisy. You only have to look at the recent uproar at CPAC, where the mere mention of impeachment drew cheers from a crowd that the media insists is the president's most loyal vanguard. Voices across the true liberty movement, highlighted by independent commentators and publications like The American Conservative, are exposing the reality that the anti-war right is entirely fed up with being sold out to defense contractors. These people are getting so desperate to control the narrative and keep the gas lamps lit that they launched an official White House app to feed you push notifications about a booming economy and other deceitful pro-Trump slop.
So they essentially want to keep us fed by the circus, by the news, the good news of the circus and the bread, just like the animals were on Animal Farm. It sure sounds that way. It sure sounds like that's what they want to do, to keep us all distracted, to keep us all divided, and to say, see, Trump is doing great things for America on its 250-year anniversary. But no, it's all just Trump slop.
Mm-hmm. It is attempting to build a digital panopticon to bypass independent media and drown out the reality of utility shutoffs and foreign intervention. The state is showing you exactly who they are, a collection of actors obsessed with their own reflection, while the audience starves and the world burns. I wonder if this White House app is the thing I was hearing about, where it's like the everything that you learn in the first year of computer science to never do and then release into the public is like all the things that are on this app. Is basically a security nightmare for anybody who downloads it. I don't know if that's the same thing, but it wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me either, but at the same time, I don't know if you're correct that it is a security nightmare, but if it is, it's a terrible thing for the government to do to you, is give you a security nightmare, unless that's what they want to do.
Yeah, I was listening to Last American Vagabond, and he was talking about some app released by the federal government. I think this may have been what he was talking about. Anyways, the article continues. The answer is not to wait for a different administrator to take the wheel of the war machine. There is no voting your way out of this mess. It is time we stop recognizing their authority to create this dumpster fire altogether. As the ruling class signs its name to your stolen wealth and demands your applause for their wars, the only visible path forward is absolute financial and social autonomy. We strip them of their power the moment we stop participating in their circuses and start building parallel systems they cannot control. Fortunately, the sheer desperation of their propaganda proves they are terrified of a populace that is rapidly waking up to the grift. Every time the establishment rolls out another taxpayer-funded distraction, thousands more see the cage for what it is and begin quietly opting out. That peaceful, voluntary rebellion is already happening all around us, and is the one thing their trillions in stolen wealth can never stop. Well said, Matt Agris. That is closely aligned with the viewpoint, in my opinion, of how we fix this. You can't make your neighbor do it. There's not a collective solution to this. It's just you. You just have to stop doing it. You have to consider them illegitimate, and if they're going to extort something from you, make them say that what they're doing is extorting from you because they're bullies. Otherwise just live your life. Be peaceful. Don't cause harm. And this illegitimate tyranny will just crumble under its own weight.
I think that's what we all need to realize, is that we have the ability to end the tyrannical rule over us by these people in suits and titles, because as individuals, we have the ability to say no. If all of us decided one day that we're not going to comply, what are they going to do?
Yeah, there's nothing they can do.
They can't lock us all in a cage, can they?
No, and so this is the solution that works, whether it's, a few very wealthy families that never let their name get out into the public, or whether it's like an immortal alien in Antarctica that's running the world. Whatever it is that causes the ominous continuity through the centuries, it doesn't matter what it is. It can't stand up to us refusing to give it power. It just becomes weak. It's like Saruman after the scouring of the Shire.
Yeah.
He just loses all his power because everybody's, nobody would give him any power anymore. So, I don't know. What else you want to talk about, Riley?
I did post some things into the Telegram chat. But I want to go back to the story about us flying around the moon, because I think it's fascinating.
Okay.
I think it's fascinating because at the height of war and this bread and circus show that they're sending people back to the moon. And during the Vietnam War, the American people were also distracted by a moon program. So I feel like Trump is trying to distract the American people, or thinking that he could be just as great as the last presidents by distracting the American people with the moon program while the economy collapses, while there's war, because he wants to be a great president too. He just wants someone to tell him, hey, you're the greatest person ever. And so as we're witnessing this whole thing unfold, we're witnessing the downfall of an empire, I fear. And it can be a good thing because that gives us an opportunity to move forward and do something entirely different. But for many people, it will be a bad thing because they're not used to an empire ending.
Yeah, it could look a bit scary, I think. Especially like nobody. It's a hard thing to picture in your mind, right? Like, what does it look like? America actually coming to a complete destruction. Certainly, you're gonna have people still going to work on the day that America falls apart or whatever. Whatever that looks like, whether being taken over by a foreign power or just the government gives up and goes home, or I don't know, whatever the case may be. Certainly, you're gonna still have people just that have such a hard time even picturing such a thing that they're just going to go to work or try to go to the grocery store or go about their normal lives.
I think a lot of people are so focused on going to work, coming home, and trying to survive that everything else outside of that is not on their mind because they're focused on survival mode. And I can understand that. You're dealing with a world that's always at war. The financial situation is not great. The economy is collapsing slowly. Your dollar is losing value. And you're focused on how to feed your children, feed your family, pay the bills, things like that. And it's hard to focus on anything else. And it seems like the powers that ought not be want you that way, so you're more compliant and more docile. Yeah,
they certainly do have that as part of their agenda. It was a big drive of the women's liberation movement, because now you just have both parents working. You don't get more stuff. You just have to work more.
Yeah. And they sold women, I'm guessing they sold women on the whole idea of, oh, you can have it all. You can have kids, you can have a job, you can have this, you can have that. But, men and women working in the workforce, although it can be a good thing, it's also led to a breaking apart of the family.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing that builds society is family. Like, I come from a family of 6 siblings, 3 brothers, 3 sisters. And even though I'm thousands of miles from them, I still feel like I'm really close to them. And that's really important because families are the basic building blocks of society. And at the end of the day, if the family unit is breaking apart, then society is easily controlled. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, certainly. To me, it seems that family is the only form of government prescribed by nature.
Yeah.
Beyond that, it's all human construct. But nature says that, if you're going to be born, it's going to be to a mother and father, and for you to have the best chances of survival, mother and father need to put effort into seeing that outcome.
Right.
All right. So you posted one here from CTV News. Quebec passes law banning street prayer rooms in universities, CEGEPs. Not sure what that is, but I bet we'll find out. Let's see here. Quebec is banning street prayers. The Coalition Avenir Quebec, CAQ, Super Minister of Identity.
Man, these titles.
Jeez, how would you like to be the Super Minister of Identity?
Somebody wants to have that job, obviously.
Yeah, Jean-Francois Robert has just passed his bill to strengthen secularism. The legislation received the support of the Parti Québécois, while the Liberals in Quebec Solidaire voted against it. Man, Frenchies. Why can't you just use English words? Minister Robert.
They'd rather use French instead.
Minister Roberge has previously stated that street prayers could be considered acts of provocation. How dare you pray in the street?
Provoke people by praying.
Municipalities will be able to authorize them, but only under certain criteria. The new law will also ban the wearing of religious symbols by daycare educators. The government is also extending this ban to teachers and staff at private schools. Oh my goodness. However, there will be a grandfather clause for employees hired before November 27th, 2025. The full face veil will be banned in daycare centers, CEGEPs, and universities for both those receiving services and those providing them. The Legault government is also signaling the end of the road for subsidized private religious schools. These schools will have 3 years to stop selecting students and teachers based on their religious affiliation and to cease teaching religious content during school hours, otherwise they will lose access to public funds. Religious activities may still take place in these schools, but only outside of school hours. They must also be optional and not funded by the state. The minister is also putting an end to prayer rooms in CEGEPs and universities. Did it explain to us what CEGEP is?
I can't remember, but it sounds to me like what they're trying to do is get government out of prayer. I don't know. I'm trying to figure this one
out of everywhere that they have, the notion that they have jurisdiction.
Okay.
Is what it sounds like.
Okay.
Let's see. The Legault government is thus strengthening its Bill 21 on secularism, which prohibits the wearing of religious symbols by government employees in positions of authority, including judges, police officers, and teachers. Once again, Quebec is shielding its law from legal challenges with the notwithstanding clause. The PQ is taking some credit for the adoption of this legislation. Let's acknowledge that several ideas in this bill, which will become law, come from the Parti Québécois. We're dealing with a government that often, when we put forward an idea, reacts by saying it doesn't make sense. Then, in the end, essentially adopts the same approach we had from the start. So we believe this is indeed what needs to be done, said PQ member Alex something French I can't pronounce. Quebec Solidaire strongly criticizes the ban on religious symbols for daycare educators. Contrary to what the minister says, there will be daycare educators who will lose their jobs if they were hired after November 27th or if they change facilities. This is serious. At a time when we're facing a crisis in our public services, parents are worried, and women want to work and have someone to care for their children in daycare centers, said QS spokesperson Ruba Gazal. I have so many problems with this story. Canada must be nuts. Holy cow.
It sounds like it. Like government overreach when it comes to religion. You can't wear religious symbols in the street. Otherwise, I don't know. It just seems so overbearing to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about the attack on religion, right? Because most religions are absolute nonsense. And in fact, I'd say I haven't heard of a single organized religion on the planet that isn't nonsense. Every single one of them is nonsense.
I agree with you on that, but most of them will say, oh, we're the one true path to God or whatever, or we have the one knowledge to save you, the one way to save you.
There are as many paths to God as there are individuals on the planet.
I agree with you there on that. Yeah, absolutely.
Spirituality is real. Religions is kind of just bunk. It's not going to help you get there. It's just going to bilk you out of some money and give you a bunch of, red herrings. So, for Canada to go ahead and ban it, it's like, on the one hand, I don't know, does this mean that their legislators can't publicly display their dual allegiance to Canada and whatever other country they love, or especially if it's a religious country. I don't know, like which religions are going to have the biggest problem with this rule, and are any of the religions going to be exempted from it? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think Christianity will have a problem with it. Islam will have a problem with it for sure. But as for who is going to get the grease, I would say that leftists, and Canada is a leftist country, they want to pander to Islam because it's the minority. Yeah,
and I also wonder if it's going to go something like hijab not allowed, cross necklace not allowed, yarmulke allowed. You know what I mean? And so like they're going to have this weird kind of, I don't know, arbitrary seeming sort of rule set that doesn't hold up logically, and you're just going to have people embittered by it. But I don't know how they'll do it. It just seems like I was shown a little bit of a video from a I don't know if it was like a Senate meeting or it was a Canadian government function, like what it looks like on C-SPAN when they show the Congress meetings and whatever.
Yeah.
But it was Canadian, and those people are nuts. Like I was blown away by the amount of nonsense I heard in this short little 3-minute video.
Tell us about the nonsense you heard.
The person at the podium talking was like calling everyone comrades for one thing.
Oh, so it was a leftist convention up there.
Yeah, and it was one person spoke up and asked to not have gendered language used during the meeting.
Interesting. And I think I saw clips of that.
And this lady up front was just like losing her mind, trying to like bark orders about people sitting down so that the counters can count how many people are in the room. And it's just like, I don't know. It's so creepy and safe space feeling. And like, why?
They want to make everyone feel safe and welcome, and they want to have everyone have an opportunity to speak, and everyone have their privilege, and it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, if that's the mindset of your average populace, you're just set up to be destroyed by something, a little more brutal than Canada.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. It just seems like not a place I would get along with most people. But the American mindset probably isn't much better. Give us a call. Let us know what you think. 603-283-6160 is the phone number here. We've got open lines, so give us a call. It's Free Talk Live.
A congressman recently revealed that legislation totaling 2,900 pages and involving more than $1 trillion was available to members of Congress for less than 48 hours to study and consider. That's over 60 pages of legislation per hour. Do you think anyone read the entire bill? I'm Jim Babka with DownsizeDC.org. Consider a proposal buried in a 3,200-page, $388 billion bill, which would have empowered committee chairmen or their agents to examine Americans' tax returns. When this horrible provision came to light, no one claimed to know how it got into the bill. One congressman questioned said, "I didn't write it, I didn't approve it, I wasn't even consulted." If your attorney represented you this way, he might be disbarred. But this is how Congress represents you every day. That's why DownsizeDC.org has created the Read the Bills Act. You can force Congress to read their bills before they pass them at DownsizeDC.org.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.fm.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann with the Week in Review. On Friday, the United States said it had rescued one of 2 crew members from a fighter jet shot down by Iran. President Donald Trump was briefed as a search and rescue operation continued. Nick Harper reports from Washington.
Videos show a US transport plane and Black Hawk helicopter in the skies over Iran, apparently involved in the rescue mission. Officials say one of the crew has now been rescued and is receiving hospital treatment. The whereabouts of the second crew member are still unknown. The downed jet was reportedly a 2-seater F-15E fighter jet with a 2-man crew. It comes after US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the US had air superiority above Iran and could operate virtually unchallenged over the country.
Meanwhile, a spokesperson for the Iranian military this week warned of incoming crushing, broader and destructive attacks after the US president said the war would continue for another 2 to 3 weeks. In a speech to the nation, Donald Trump said the US is on track to soon complete all of its military objectives against Iran. Ross Cullen reports.
The response from Tehran after the primetime speech from the US leader was a warning that the US and Israel, quote, must pay for the aggression you initiated. A military spokesperson said Iran's military production takes place in places that you don't know at all, rejecting claims made by the United States leader that Iran's weapons stockpile had been widely depleted. There's no sign of a ceasefire in sight at the moment, with Iran's foreign ministry rejecting Donald Trump's claim that the country had asked for a halt to the fighting as baseless.
Meanwhile, US Supreme Court justices cast doubt on President Trump's attempts to restrict birthright citizenship, one of his most ambitious policy endeavours. The president took the unprecedented step of attending the High Court for oral arguments as conservative and liberal justices questioned the legality of his attempt to block the children of illegal immigrants born on US soil from automatically becoming citizens. Kate Fisher reports from the US Supreme Court.
Quite the welcome for President Donald Trump as he became the first sitting president to hear oral arguments at the Supreme Court over whether his executive order limiting birthright citizenship is legal. One of his arguments is that if unrestricted, it leads to so-called birth tourism, where pregnant women travel to the US to give birth so that their baby can have American citizenship. But the Chief Justice, John Roberts, seems skeptical. The justices also had vigorous questions for ACLU lawyer Cecilia Wang, but she found notably less resistance in her defense of birthright citizenship. A decision is expected by the end of June or early July.
Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen says he and his team are feeling pretty good as the Orion spacecraft takes them to the far side of the moon. The 4 astronauts are now hundreds of thousands of miles from Earth as part of NASA's Artemis II mission. Stuart Smith has more.
The trip will take the astronauts further from Earth than anyone has been before, in a mission to observe, but not land on, the far side of the moon, which is never visible from Earth. After slingshotting around the Earth a few times to build up momentum and the right trajectory, the crew are now directly on their way to the moon, and are the first people to leave the Earth's orbit since the 1970s. They're still a few days from reaching the moon, though, and in the meantime they'll check their equipment, control systems, and plan for the observations they'll be doing when they get close. In their first public video call since launching, Commander Reed Wiseman gave an update on their situation.
It was pretty tense moments there for a second, and I got to tell you, there is nothing normal about this. Sending 4 humans 250,000 miles away is a Herculean effort.
And finally this week, Pakistan and Afghanistan resumed talks in China, with Beijing mediating to calm tensions between the two sides. This comes as Middle East turmoil fuels wider regional instability. Analysts warn that easing pressure along the Afghan border is essential as Pakistan's military faces the risk of being stretched across both its western and Iranian frontiers. Hira Mustafa reports from Islamabad.
Pakistani officials say the talks aim to find common ground to tackle terrorists allegedly operating from Afghanistan, a charge Kabul denies. Beijing is mediating to try to broker a ceasefire. Clashes between the two neighbors since February have been the most intense in decades, leaving dozens injured on both sides of the border. Pakistan and Afghanistan representatives are meeting in China's northern city of Urumqi. Experts stress that stability in Pakistan's western border region is crucial, especially amid uncertainty in Iran. With Islamabad sharing a 900 kilometers border with Iran, any instability there could put additional strain on Pakistan's military.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
A new report finds climate change skeptics could reach catastrophic levels by 2020. The nation's gratuitously sexual couples announce plans to wait in line at Six Flags. And Grandpa looks absolutely precious in his new baseball cap. Offering a one-stop shop for all your peerless online news summary needs, this is the Onion Week in Review. In response to the escalating violence and rising death toll in Gaza this week, Israel unveiled a new defense system to deflect accusations of human rights violations. Israeli officials praised the new safety structure's ability to intercept an international barrage of war crime allegations and divert criticisms of Palestinian civilian casualties before they can ever hope to make contact with the Jewish state. In other news, a new state law requires doctors to scale an 18-foot wall surrounding abortion clinics. A study finds high school students retain only 1/3 of their obsolete curriculum over the summer, and a man's anxiety is not about to let depression muscle in on its turf.
This is the Onion News Network.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. It's talk radio you control. So you give us a call. Let us know what's on your mind tonight. ForkFest 2026 has had multiple changes. Please pay attention, as this info may be new to you. June 22nd through 29th at the Northern Water Outfitters campground in Errol, New Hampshire. The owner has offered to host 100 campers at his campground, which is being closed just for ForkFest. Anyone else who'd like to stay in the surrounding area may come for a day pass for free. The only real restriction he's given us for this event is no nudism, which I think we can deal with after the crazy restrictions Roger started imposing. ForkFest.party for more info, and ForkFest2026@gmail.com to sign up as one of the 100 campers. In the studio tonight, it's Stu.
And Riley O'Bill.
We're going to go straight to the phones. We've got Sarah in New Mexico. Sarah, what's on your mind?
It's nice to talk with you guys, and I have a huge win. We're getting 4 more speeding cameras in Albuquerque.
Why do you consider that to be a win, Sarah?
Well, I have been working on these speeders. We got drag racer speeders. We got people hit and run. I mean, they run stop signs, red light cameras. I mean, everything. So speeding cameras is better than nothing. It's something. So it's a huge, right? So 4 more. So we got 20. So just little by little, they're just adding more. They promised to put another 20 more, but I love speeding cameras.
Yeah, Sarah thinks that that's going to make people slow down. It really doesn't, though, because most of the people who are speeding can afford to just pay the ticket, and they really don't care how many times they get a speeding ticket until...
They'll just pay it and pay it and pay it.
Yeah, until it affects their... You know, like, you can only get so many until they threaten to take your license away or whatever, but...
I don't think they do that here in New Mexico. Okay, in our state, there's no points against the driver's license.
So you can just keep getting them and paying them?
Wow.
The speeding cameras aren't going to do anything.
No.
Yeah, this is New Mexico. I mean, it's amazing. So here's the thing. Other states, like in Georgia, your points goes on your driver's license. Points goes to your credit rating. Points go to your insurance companies. And what else does it do? It's not a. I mean, I think some states it's criminal. I mean, they will. If you have an unpaid red light camera, they will haul you and put you in jail. I mean, same thing with Texas, Illinois, like Chicago. But our state, the only thing that they could do is put them on your credit. So then, if you have bad credit, you're half your life you're homeless, the other half you're in jail. You don't need credit, you don't want credit, you don't have credit. You could get all these tickets and tear them all up. I mean, that's the only thing. Half the people are not paying, and what I see is there's two cars parked around. What they're doing is they're taking their license plate and putting up on the rear view car, and it's tinted. There's a car like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's so they're taking, and then they have, I think there's another car with a bogus temporary license, and they stick it on the back rear window. So then the red light cameras can't take a picture of it or something.
I love the creative ways that people are avoiding these traffic cameras. That makes me really excited.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, that is really funny. You know what? I know that it's a fake temporary license because I seen this other car with this white paper stuck on the car for like a whole year. Every time that's parked there, they have a temporary license. So I'm thinking they must know somebody in the DMV. It's just a black and white paper, like a printout that you could fill out with any person could print that out using a computer or scanner or whatever, and you just write any bogus number on it. I don't know if
you'd be surprised, Sarah. I may or may not know somebody who drove around for more than a year in a car with plates that didn't even belong on it and were expired. No problems from the cops.
Oh, but it actually looked like a license plate. But these are the temporary, it's just black and white paper with a black print on it. So it's not like anything authentic. Anybody could print a similar like temporary license and write whatever names on it. And I'm thinking maybe they have family or friends that work for DMV. And all they have to do is give you a blank temporary paper, and you just fill out they'll probably give you the expired license plate to write down, and then they stuck it up in the back window and they run around with like this.
No, that could never happen. The people that work at the DMV are so pure of heart. They work for the government, don't you know? They're anointed and holy, and they could never do anything wrong. No corruption ever happens in government. They're the perfect saviors.
Yeah, so all kinds of things going on. And then I have no idea. In our state, I have no idea if there are consequences. That's if people that are worried that they need credit, they need to borrow money for a loan on a house or to buy a car, they will pay it. All the rest of them that have no okay, 1 out of 4 people have no no car insurance here.
Okay.
So it's supposed to be a law, and there's 1/4 of the people that don't have money, don't pay it, don't have car insurance, and then
or they've just figured out that it's a scam, and if they can drive for 3 years uninsured, and then they get caught and have to pay the $350 ticket, it was way better than the $4,000 they were going to spend on auto insurance that they were never going to use because they're careful drivers.
Yeah, I guess
which I've done before, and I came out ahead. So
what they do is, if they get taken to court, they'll go to the judge. Tell them you got to get you got to get your car insurance. What they do is they enroll for a whole month, and the next month they cancel out.
Yeah.
So they don't.
Why?
Only pay
Why
the
wouldn't
first
you?
month to get. Yeah, that's another racket. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the problem with that. If you get hit, if you're driving in New Mexico, you have to pay a uninsured motorist. So you have to pay for an uninsured car to hit you, to run the stop sign and assignment to your car. Otherwise, they have no insurance. So you're done. If your car gets damaged and totaled, there's nobody's going to help you out. And that's the end of it. So you have to pay for the uninsured car motorist. Because 1 out of 4 cars that will hit you, that'll run the red light and slam into you, they don't have any insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you got to have in New Mexico if you have a decent car that you want to salvage or anything.
Yeah, it's part of the minimum state requirement, and a lot of states to have uninsured motorist coverage.
Are you serious? That's required too?
Yeah.
But I thought it was just minimum is just liability to cover I don't know, to cover your fault or something. You can't do nothing about covering the other person. I have no idea, but
yeah, I can't remember. It wasn't a lot of coverage. It was only like $10,000 or something in Utah where they did this. In New Hampshire, they don't require you to have insurance, which actually makes it a lot cheaper. Which is nice because I run the insurance anyways, just because it's cheap enough that it seems like it's probably worth it for me. But they don't have a state minimum requirement because they don't have any requirement for it. But in Utah, they had one, and uninsured motorists was on that list, but I think it was only up to like 10,000.
Yeah, so I just hope, if there's a driver with a fake temporary license that they just wrote in and stuck it in the back rear window, but if they're between cars that are afraid of getting a ticket in the front and the back, they're going to have to do the speed limit. That's what I think about it. The other speeders, they're sandwiched between people that are afraid of tickets. They can't speed either.
Yeah, well, I don't know. The red light cameras aren't going to stop the speeders. And thanks for the call tonight.
If anything, I think the red light cameras are going to create more creative ways to get out of speeding tickets, or people are just going to pay the fines and not care.
Yeah, you're just going to have people doing the things like the license plate covers that make it hard to take a picture of, or the fake temporaries, or whatever they're going to do. People that can afford to pay a speeding ticket and want to speed are going to speed and then pay the ticket. And people that can't afford to pay the ticket and want to speed, they're going to speed and not pay the ticket. It's not really that big of an influence on people's decision when they're actually behind their wheel, whether or not they're going to let off the gas or push it. For me, I keep it under the speed limit because I don't like police interactions and I try to avoid them. Or I keep it under the implied 5 over is the actual speed limit. So I keep it between the posted speed limit and 5 over. Those speeds won't ever get you pulled over. You might be doing something else that gets you pulled over, but it won't be the speed. So I, and that's because I don't want the police interactions, and I'm not going to speed because 1, it's not going to save me enough time, and 2, it's going to increase my risk of, catastrophic vehicular failure or accident. In other words, it's the faster you're going, the less safe you are. Which, it's fine. I feel fine driving fast, but it's not. Number 3 is that it's not going to save you that much time, right? And so, did I already say that one? Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, and I'm not going to pay them, and it's a big hassle on my time to have to go into court and tell them why I'm not going to pay them, and then find out what else they want me to do. So the drain on my time, the police interaction, those are enough to incentivize me to not do it. And the upside isn't enough to incentivize me to do it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Personally, I'm not a big speeder. But I support people's... I support people that want to do so and can do it competently and, within reason. Then I think go ahead. Speed away. It's, I don't know. I kind of sympathize with Sarah, though. Some people are absolute maniacs when they get behind the wheel of a vehicle. It's just they should not ever do it, because one time I was driving over to Brattleboro on 9, and there's, one lane each direction and a shoulder that's about not quite wide enough to fit a whole car on. Well, this gigantic truck comes down the road. like there's, a line of traffic. So if somebody's going 50, the posted speed limit, it's going to make a big line of cars behind it because everybody wants to go 55 or 60. And so it was one of those situations. And this big, huge pickup truck, all just like huge, jacked up, oversized tires, comes flying down the shoulder.
Oh, man.
Just passing cars without any regard, not honking his horn, just flies down the shoulder. He must have been going at least 90, but I would guess probably closer to 100.
That's crazy.
And that's not safe. You can't be doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Some old grandma is going to see you in the mirror. She's going to panic and pull over to the right because that's her instinct, and you are going to kill her. And that, you really want to live with that? I don't, so I don't drive like an idiot. But some people don't seem to have such reservations.
It seems like when people get behind a wheel, it's like their mind goes out the window.
Yeah.
From what it sounds like. I mean, I've never driven before on roads, so I couldn't answer the question. But it just sounds like, from what people told me, everyone just goes crazy.
You know what it feels like, though, when somebody stops hard or turns hard. You can tell there's a lot of weight and a lot of G-force there. And and people just don't think about it that way. They never consider the fact that what they're driving weighs thousands of pounds, which just absolutely destroy whatever it hits. They're just playing on their phone or going way too fast or whatever it is they're doing. But, yeah, I mean, they come up with new laws and new penalties for this type of behavior all the time, and this type of behavior doesn't decrease, so I don't know. Red light cameras seem like a waste of time and money to me. Sarah sure gets excited about them.
It sounds like she does. Well, from her past calls on the show, she seems like a very big government person, loves the idea of communism. And so I can see her getting delighted by these speeding cameras because she wants control over society.
Yeah, she does. I wonder what it is that motivates her. Maybe I should ask her one of these nights, whether it's, she's obviously not going to admit to it if it's stupidity.
Yeah.
I don't think it's stupidity, though. I think she's got some underlying cleverness to her.
I think she does, too. I mean, she knows how to call this show. She knows how to talk to people, obviously.
She's either scared or she has such a desperation to be part of a tribe that she's willing to, glom on to the to the biggest group that looks like a tribe to her, which would be leftist government types. So anyways, Riley brought another story. This one from AP News,
a reputable news source.
The AP News is just like, that's just like the big pool of state propaganda that all the news agencies pull from. Is that right?
I would say so, yes. I think that's where the big propagandists pull their stories from. I like to use the AP because at least if there's a rumor, the AP can either confirm it for me or they might have their own spin on it, so I can be like, okay, well, this might be the truth on the matter and this might be the AP's version of the truth.
Mm-hmm. That's why news companies pulling their information from AP is how you get the phenomenon of, the 300 news broadcasters saying the same sentence with the same inflection. Yep. And it's real creepy, especially when they overlay them and make videos. If you haven't seen one of those,
you definitely should. They're really interesting.
Yeah, go look it up. All right. This was quadruple amputee cornhole player fatally shoots man. What the heck?
I know. It's a wild story.
All right. That's one heck of a headline. Quadruple amputee cornhole player fatally shoots man, Maryland authorities say. A professional cornhole player. There's a professional cornhole league.
Yes, there is.
America, come on, you gotta do.
Bread and circuses.
You can do something better than that, I
Bread and
think.
circuses.
A professional cornhole player who's also a quadruple amputee has been accused of fatally shooting a passenger in the front seat of a car he was driving during an argument, Maryland authorities say. Who was driving, the quadruple amputee or the person that got shot?
I think the amputee.
Doesn't quadruple amputee mean you've had your arms and legs removed?
I would assume so. I wonder how he plays cornhole.
That's what I was wondering. You huck it with your mouth?
I have no idea.
Oh, jeez. All right, let's go on with this story. Dayton James Weber, 27, was featured by ESPN in 2023 in a story of inspiration, noting he rode dirt bikes, wrestled, and played football before becoming a professional cornhole player. In the same year, he wrote an essay for the Today Show about how he became a professional competitor. On Sunday night, he was arrested and charged as a fugitive from justice by police in Albemarle County. Is that what that is? Albemarle?
It might be.
County, Virginia, the Charles County Sheriff's Office said in a statement. Charles County is seeking his extradition from Virginia and said he will be charged with first-degree murder, second-degree murder, and related charges. It wasn't clear Tuesday whether Weber has an attorney yet. Messages seeking comment were left for his mother. In a 2023 essay for the Today Show, Weber said doctors amputated his arms and legs when he was 10 months old to save his life after he contracted a serious blood infection. His medical team gave him a 3% chance of surviving, he wrote. Weber went on to become a professional player of cornhole, which players throw beanbags through a hole in a slanted wooden board to score points. In the essay for the Today Show, he said he learned to grab the beanbag by the corners and throw it using his amputated arms. Weber pulled over after the shooting in La Plata, Maryland, and asked two passengers in the back of the car to help pull the victim out, the Charles County Sheriff's Office said. The witnesses refused, got out of the car, and flagged down police officers. Weber fled with the victim still in the car, the sheriff's office said. 2 hours later, a resident in Charlotte Hall, about a 10-mile drive away, reported a body in a yard. Officers found the victim, Bradrick Michael Wells, 27, of Waldorf, who was pronounced dead at the scene. The American Cornhole League posted a statement on its Facebook page saying it is aware of allegations involving Weber, but said it would not comment on what is called an active legal situation while proceedings were ongoing.
This is such a strange story because
it posts some of the comments here.
Wow.
From, hang on, where are these? This must be on X, I guess.
Okay.
Somebody says, I'm reminded of Blade Runner, dude. His legs look lethal. Overcome incredible odds, then toss them away like a beanbag. Somebody says, so many questions here, starting with professional cornhole. I assume they mean beanbag toss? Professional beanbag toss? Seriously? Yeah, I brought that one up. A man with no legs or arms shot someone and drove away, evading police. Wow. How?
That's what I want to know. I hope this case goes to trial because, holy Hannah, I'd love to hear the trial.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't show any pictures of the guy. I mean, what his limbs look like. What do you pull the trigger with?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Holy cow, man. All right, give us a call. Phone number here is 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper. The US says it's rescued one of the 2 crew members from a fighter jet that was shot down by Iran. President Donald Trump has been briefed on the situation as the search and rescue operation continues for the second person in that crew. Videos show a US transport plane and Black Hawk helicopter in the skies over Iran, apparently involved in that mission. The downed jet was reportedly a 2-seater F-15E fighter jet with a 2-man crew. It comes after US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the US had air superiority over Iran and could operate virtually unchallenged over the country. The Cuban government is releasing 2,000 prisoners in what it's calling a humanitarian and sovereign gesture. It comes as Washington has been putting increasing pressure on Cuba in recent months, including through a months-long oil blockade of the island. FSN's Mitch McCann reports.
Cuba's embassy in Washington said the release of the prisoners is designed to coincide with Holy Week, an important religious occasion in a country that's largely Catholic. According to the New York Times, the prisoner release includes young people, those over 60, foreign nationals and Cubans who live overseas. It's unclear if Cuba's decision is to appease Washington, whose oil blockade has contributed to devastating power outages in recent months. In March, Donald Trump told reporters he believed that he would have the honour of taking Cuba without providing further explanation as to what he meant. Mitch McCann, New York.
Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen says he and his team are feeling pretty good as their Orion spacecraft takes them to the far side of the moon. The 4 astronauts are now hundreds of thousands of miles from the Earth as part of NASA's Artemis II mission. FSN's Stuart Smith has more.
The trip will take the astronauts further from Earth than anyone has been before, in a mission to observe, but not land on, the far side of the moon, which is never visible from Earth. After slingshotting around the Earth a few times to build up momentum and the right trajectory, the crew are now directly on their way to the moon, and are the first people to leave the Earth's orbit since the 1970s. They're still a few days from reaching the moon, though, and in the meantime they'll check their equipment, control systems, and plan for the observations they'll be doing when they get close. In their first public video call since launching, Commander Reed Wiseman gave an update on their situation.
It was pretty tense moments there for a second, and I got to tell you, there is nothing normal about this. Sending 4 humans 250,000 miles away is a Herculean effort, and we are now just realizing the gravity of that.
The US economy added 178,000 jobs in March, above expectations. The US unemployment rate dropped slightly to 4.3%. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Talk radio you control. Give us a call. The phone number is 603-283-6160. This is the final segment, but you do still have time. In the studio tonight, it's Stu.
And Riley O'Bill.
We'd love to have a conversation with you, but if you don't call us, that's okay. We can talk about something else.
We got plenty to talk about. There's plenty of stuff going on in the world we could definitely talk about.
Here's the thing.
that I found an activist post from Micah Zimmerman at Bitcoin Magazine. U.S. senators unveil Mind in America Act to reshore BTC mining, codify Bitcoin strategic reserve. This thing turned out so far to be a big nothing burger. The strategic Bitcoin reserve
Was all made of stolen Bitcoin? Yep, nothing burger.
The Bitcoin hodlers hoped it meant that the U.S. was actually going to start purchasing Bitcoin, but they had no intention of doing anything like that.
Of course not. That would be the most intelligent thing to do. They wanted to do the easy thing and steal money from people or Bitcoin from people just because they could.
Yeah, they just wanted to wave a flag around and shout about how great they are because look at our big pile of stolen Bitcoin.
Yep.
Republican Senators Bill Cassidy and Cynthia Lummis introduced legislation Monday aimed at reshaping the U.S. digital asset mining sector, tightening supply chains, and embedding Bitcoin into Federal Reserve strategy. The proposal, titled Mind in America Act, would establish a federal certification program for domestic crypto mining operations while phasing out reliance on foreign manufactured hardware. I wonder if that's like the first step to like making it illegal to use a foreign mining pool or foreign mining equipment.
It might be, and they might use that to say, oh, well, now New Hampshire's foreign equipment, or if someone's using a VPN, they could use that against them too.
It also seeks to codify Donald Trump's executive order creating a strategic Bitcoin reserve, placing the policy on statutory footing, according to a release on the matter. Yeah, I guess so. If they start passing laws that reference this strategic Bitcoin reserve, then it makes it more of a real thing, and it doesn't just fade away into nothingness. Because right now it's really just nothing.
Yeah, it definitely is nothing. I know they're still planning on using stolen Bitcoins, but once it's codified, they're definitely going to start using stolen Bitcoins and pretend that they're actually, having a strategic reserve of Bitcoin when in reality they're just stealing it from people.
Digital asset mining is a big part of our economy. We should be doing it here in America, Cassidy said in a statement, framing the bill as a supply chain and manufacturing initiative. That's funny. Like Bitcoin mining is an actual it results in actual goods, or you know what I mean? Like It's silly for my brain to consider Bitcoin mining as part of the economy or supply chains. That's weird. Lummis tied the legislation to a broader push to position the United States as a global hub for digital assets. The Mind in America Act brings this industry home through forward-thinking initiatives to secure our financial future, Barman's statement, she said. The bill directs the Department of Commerce to create a voluntary Mind in America certification for mining facilities and pools that meet security and sourcing standards. Certified operators would be required to transition away from hardware linked to foreign adversaries over a phased timeline, with the goal of full compliance by the end of the decade. Full compliance! Comply!
You gotta comply. We demand your compliance. It's just interesting to me that here they are saying, oh, this is voluntary now, but soon enough it won't be.
Yeah, and as we look back at the great American viewpoint of the Bitcoin experiment, those who were trying to be most compliant with the government are the ones that got hammered the hardest. So, and I'm not telling anybody to be non-compliant, but I'm also not telling you to be compliant, because that's obviously not a good idea.
Yeah.
Lawmakers and industry advocates have pointed to a stark imbalance in the current mining ecosystem. While the United States controls an estimated 38% of global Bitcoin hash rate, what do you mean the United States controls it? Like the United States government is mining 38% of the global Bitcoin? I don't think so. They're talking about individuals inside of America, right?
Yeah.
But the way they write that sentence sounds so communist government. You know what I mean?
Oh, they've got to make it sound
Because
like
in
the
the
hero
case of-
is the miner.
In the case
hero
of
is taking
China,
charge.
they can say China controls an estimated 38% or whatever,
Yep.
right? And that would be accurate. But when they say the United States controls, that's different. Like that's a horrible way to say that because it's not accurate. Anyways, roughly 90% of specialized mining hardware is produced in Chinese firms, including Bitmain and MicroBT. It used to be Bitmain was the only one making good Bitcoin miners.
When did that change?
I don't know. Apparently there's MicroBT now.
Huh. Interesting.
I don't know anything about that. I haven't even looked at the mining tech or the market for mining machines for quite a while because I wouldn't mine Bitcoin.
It'd be too expensive to mine, I think.
Yeah, I might mine something else, but not Bitcoin. Well, and not even just because it's expensive, just because it's by far not my favorite coin. It's the most popular, so I'll use it, but it's kind of a piece of junk.
But it's so pricey right now.
It's so clunky and just
it's so great.
It's so clunky and just dumb. And
yeah, it's definitely really clunky. Like you can't.
Its only feature is number goes up.
Yeah, that's the only nice thing about it is number goes up. Like there are tons of other coins out there that could be really great, like Bitcoin Cash, Dash, Monero.
Yeah, I really like Dash for usability. It's let me down fewer times than even like Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah.
And I'll give it to the BCH chain. Like a lot of its shortcomings were due to outside attacks, whether socially engineered attacks or actual internet computer related technology attacks. They even attacked their own chain once, they spammed the heck out of their own chain to see what kind of throughput it could get, and it went ahead and proved that not increasing the block size was really dumb for the Bitcoin main chain.
And yet they kept it up. They kept not increasing the block size.
Yeah. After 92+% of all the miners were signaling, yes, we want to increase the block size. And then like 2 weeks later, the Blockstream guys get $1 million from Henry D. Castries and AXA, and which is very Bilderberg related. And suddenly, nope, we're just going to do the SegWit thing and keep the blocks small. Anyways, there's a lot of better coins out there than BTC, Bitcoin.
I'm personally a fan of Monero, or the idea of Monero for privacy. I've never used Monero in a transaction yet. I've received
cool.
Monero, but
yeah, it's really cool, and it has been for a long time. And I've always kind of been like skeptical that it would work out for a lot of reasons that I don't really necessarily want to get into right now. But it's held in there really well, and a lot of people have adopted it, and it's cool. Monero is a cool coin. I like that better than BTC. But yeah, BTC is just so sorely lacking in in so many ways that it should.
Do you know anything about XRP? I've seen a lot of posts on Twitter or now X promoting it.
I looked into it when it was kind of a new thing, and I decided I was never going to buy any, and I haven't, and I don't read about it. It's not interesting to me. It was designed as like a second layer for the banks.
Okay.
Digital currency for the banks. It was supposed to be like an interbank sort of currency thing. But yeah, the whole feeling around it just kind of made me think this is not a project I want to support. So
Was it because it was
buy any.
Was it because it was tied to the banks, or what made you decide that?
Yeah, that was part of it. And then let's see, this was a long time ago. So I think the way they had it set up as far as, so like with the Bitcoin's got 21 million built-in scarcity kind of thing, and XRP I think doesn't have that. I don't think they have a hard cap on how many coins.
Oh, that could be a problem if people want to produce more coins.
Well, they have ways of controlling it so that there's a planned amount of inflation or whatever. There are a lot of coins that don't have a cap that are fine. But certainly back then, definitely more so than now, the 21 million hard cap was very appealing to me. Of course, I realized after thinking about why do they have 8 spots after the decimal, that that it doesn't matter if they say there's only going to be 21 million, because as soon as they start changing how many spots they have after the decimal, it's the same thing as inflating the total supply.
Yeah.
And I've been argued with that. No, it's not. But if you think about it, it does exist. It has the exact effect of inflation on the existing supply. So I don't know. And I expect they'll do that at some point. That's not, that's years to come. That they'll have to do it, I figure, once you get to $1 million Bitcoin, because then you got, $1 Satoshi?
Yeah, and they've got to do something to make the Bitcoin more reusable.
Yeah, and you can't have $1 as the very base, the very smallest amount transactable, right?
Yeah.
Because 1 Satoshi is the smallest amount transactable, and is 1/100 millionth of a coin.
Do you think Bitcoin could ever go to $1 million, though?
Yeah, and not necessarily because it's so like, $1 million US at that time might only buy you 10 loaves of bread or something.
Yeah.
Or a bicycle.
Okay.
But yes, I think it could go way past $1 million.
Interesting.
Yeah. Depending on what US dollar does. But even if US dollar held its current value in terms of actual market goods, I still think it could go to $1 million. Yes.
Okay.
You start seeing the rest of the world use this as a worldwide asset in which they're trading major goods like oil and grain and whatever else they trade, technology, weapons. They start denominating these things in Bitcoin valuation, and yeah, you could see the price go way, way up. At that point, it's going to be hard to get yourself more than, 0.00005 of a Bitcoin anymore. So it might still be a good idea to buy a little bit and just put it in a wallet and make sure you got those keys,
yeah,
hard copied down somewhere.
Yeah, do you think that'll happen in our lifetime?
I think the whole Bitcoin thing will play out and die in our lifetime.
Okay.
Is my guess. Probably by the time I'm real old. But yeah. Yeah, I think Bitcoin will die and will be replaced by a one world currency unless people demand something else. But yeah, you're going towards globalism, so it would only make sense for there only to be one global currency, right?
Yeah.
But the one currency that gets traded all over the world, and you might come out with, I'm sure there will be local currencies and also somewhat of a competition in the digital currency market like there is now, but maybe not, as varied. You might only have 3 or 4 alternatives, and they'll only be allowed to exist as long as they follow a certain rule set or something like that. But I don't see a lot of freedom in the in the world of money coming just because they made digital money.
Okay.
Especially, after watching all the Bitcoin people that started out as like, yeah, this thing gives us freedom from the banks and from inflation and from all the evil things that money does. And it just turned into, a number go up and this is a store of value, and I don't care if it does all the evil things. So, unless people demand something better, that's what you're going to get. But we have a caller on the line. This is David in New Mexico. What's on your mind, David?
What you're talking about. So break it down. So like if you're using $1 or if you're using an ounce of gold or if you're using silver, you're using Bitcoin, whatever. Okay. So you're talking about Bitcoin. So you use that, but you might as well be talking about gold, because what you're really talking about is a thing that is finite. And then you divide that thing into however many divisions you want. See, the divisions are infinite. The thing is finite. So once again, gold and Bitcoin, in that respect, same thing. So the numbers, $1 million, whatever, that's completely irrelevant. What is relevant though is, if people accept the thing in exchange for another thing, and presently they accept, gold. I'm not talking about the fact that you can't go into Walmart and buy something with gold, but people accept gold, people accept Bitcoin. So they're the same in that way, and they're both finite. And then the way that you determine the value is you take the thing and divide it into everything that exists, or divide it into by everything that exists. So every loaf of bread, every automobile, every acre of land, everything that has value. And to simplify it, we'll just say, okay, we're only going to use one thing as a medium of exchange. We're only going to use Bitcoin. So for this example, so you take the totality of the Bitcoin divided by everything that exists, which is basically equity, the equity of the universe, divided into, and mathematically you're using 21 million, notwithstanding the ones that are, lost. And so there you can determine the value in Bitcoin of everything that exists, if you could do that mathematical equation, which actually, especially with supercomputing or quantum computing, you can do a pretty close estimate. But even with pencil and paper, you could get pretty damn close at estimating what the value of a loaf of bread is in this point in time in Bitcoin. So you follow me?
Kind of. Except when you start talking about the value of everything in the universe. Because that goes into the realm of...
A smart ass will say, if I say everything on Earth, then, you didn't include what's on the moon, or what's on Mars, or what's in the Andromeda.
Yeah, but we don't even know the full use of everything on the Earth yet. So there might be a substance here that we don't realize the value in at this time.
Right, and so then when you do find that value, then you add that into your mathematical equation.
Well, that'd be a very constantly changing, complicated sort of thing then.
Well, no, it'd be very easy. It's like, 5th grade arithmetic.
No, because also you're going to have a hard time making an assessment of how much of which substances exist everywhere.
No, well, for our purposes, you just account for what is reasonably known to exist. That's how you do that.
The amount accessible to humans at this time, then? Okay.
Yeah, if you can't use it presently, then it doesn't matter. If you want to have a separate math equation that includes everything that we think we can get to in the next 5 seconds, or in the next 5 minutes, or in the next 5 days, or whatever length of time you want, you could include that. You could do that math as well. But to be practical,
it still has problematic externalities in that, though. Like if somebody discovers a vein of gold that's as large as the entire known supply on the planet.
Well, they've already done that. There's supposedly an asteroid floating out there that is known that has enough gold on it to make...
but let's say they found one in the dirt, in the earth. You know what I mean? And they didn't have to figure out how to go get it. They just could start mining it.
Might be easier to get to one that's traveling around in space that has the gold right on the surface, and all you got to do is land a craft on it and then load it up and send it back to Earth, as opposed to looking for what you don't know if it exists or not somewhere a mile underground.
Yeah, but it causes a necessary reevaluation of the whole scheme.
Well, welcome to life, dude.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Did you not like math class when you were in school?
I did not. I do like math. I did not like math class.
Right, you didn't even like school, dude. So so just assign that job to people that actually enjoy math and doing that kind of thing, and then you just got to ask them for the answer.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what was the goal of?
The goal of what?
So sorry, I interjected there before I think you got to your final point.
No, I never have a final point, dude. I can keep going and going and going. I never.
So why would we want to?
I never reached to finish my sentence. I never reached the end of my intellect.
Yeah. What we were talking about though was having just one currency and evaluating that which exists in that currency. That's a simple enough equation. I get that.
Right.
Did you have a point about just using one currency?
Well, first of all, that's not realistic. We're never going to use just one currency, nor should we.
No, we shouldn't. The bankers would like it, though.
Well, who the F cares what the bankers want?
The bankers.
Well, then F them.
I think so, too, but I don't know.
But what? What's the but? What's the problem with
But people
F-ing the
keep
bank?
following their incentives and empowering them.
Right. And so then your job, if you don't like it, is to think of a way to derail that little scam.
Mm-hmm.
So got some ideas?
I might not have ideas about that.
How about let's see, O'Reilly Bill.
I don't know if I have any good ideas either, dude.
Oh, come on, man. Just smoke another doobie, you'll get an idea.
Certainly using an alternative to the currency that you don't like would be one idea.
Right. Yeah. So that's one good idea that's well underway, with Bitcoin and Monero and the other million altcoins, meme coins.
Trading in skills would be a good idea too.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. Say that again. I think I heard what you said, but I'm not positive.
Maybe trading in skills could be a good idea too.
Yes. Although we used to do that, and they kind of figured out how to game that whole system, and so we got to break down how did they game that system. The bankers and the other powers that be, so that they finagled a way into getting a large percentage of everything you do.
I think they promised you a good retirement.
Well, yeah, you got to take care of the slaves, man. I mean, how hard are the slaves going to work for you if when their retirement age, because they're too, they're not they can't do the work anymore. If you just off them, then you're kind of going to the other slaves are kind of not going to work as well if they know that when they get too old they're going to be just disposed of. So yeah, you got to give the slaves a retirement. But that's all factored in, man. They got that covered. Of course, they tax you on the retirement too, in a lot of cases. In almost all cases, don't they?
Yes, they do, and they own the medical system, which will get the last drop out of you at the end anyways, and they know it. They don't. I mean, you can't take it with you, but they certainly don't want you leaving it to someone else.
No, they don't.
They will take that. Thank you very much. This has been Free Talk Live. Look forward to the return of Lori tomorrow. Peace.
If you're looking for work, it's a process of elimination, and you're trying not to be eliminated. So here's a tip for making the cut, and this might seem subtle, but to the person interviewing you, it's not. There is a world of difference between applicants who convey, "I need a job," and those who simply ooze, "I want to work," especially in these lean times when many you're competing with will seem desperate in "I'll take anything" mode. If you convey specific interest in this job at this company, you will be conspicuous. Thus, the value of going to school on the company you're applying to before the interview. With money and attention so tight now, effective communication skills have never been more important. For more tips for job seekers and everyone else, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds